We live in a society in which structural racism is a very real thing. We are all dealing with that in every aspect of our lives, and the media is a reflection of our community.
Historically, black people have been portrayed a certain way in the media to justify normative assumptions around political and social issues.
More black people behind the cameras, in front of the cameras, more producers, more people of color producing, so they can go and get the content that's needed so they can highlight our attributes.
I've been in this industry for 15 years, and I've seen firsthand how our voices just aren't heard. Even if you're in the newsroom, sometimes you get completely ignored and stereotypes are allowed to perpetuate. And one thing we want to do is combat that and also bring information to people so they can be as informed as possible when choices are made in this city, so they can do whatever they can to get their voices heard.
What I believe can be done about the situation is to have more people of color creating news stories. More people who have a interest in and a social consciousness that relates to the stories that they're telling.
Charlottesville Tomorrow looks at these issues. We can present them on IMHO. Vinegar Hill Magazine can take that a step further, and just together we can just make this thing that can be an example of how we can change the media landscape, how we can be more inclusive to get these voices in, to get these people heard. That's just one thing that doesn't happen in so many places, and it's a shame.
We think we live in a society that's very progressive, and we're talking about equity and diversity and inclusion and all these things. Still, the way that black people, and I would say, and I would argue especially black men, are portrayed by the media is incredibly dangerous, and you've seen the sort of tangible violence that it's led to over the past year.
The community can support the SIM project by first and foremost giving us an opportunity. We understand that it can be difficult to give trust right now, especially considering the current social and political environment. But this project will only be as successful as the community allows it to be. And so we ask you to give us the opportunity to do the work, critique the work, and make sure that we stay in line with the vision. Another way that the community can get behind the SIM project is through engagement. We want to hear from you. We want to know what you're talking about. We want to put your stories out there. And so whether it's reading the articles written by Charlottesville Tomorrow or Vinegar Hill Magazine, or tuning into In My Humble Opinion on Sundays on 101.3 Jams from noon to 3 p.m., either way, we want you engaged. We want you to be part of this. The community can also support the SIM project through funding. To learn more about how to support SIM, you can visit our website. Thank you for your support.
Thought we slept, but the architects of the Pentagon from Egypt, government secret, the 99 to 2G computer. IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams. IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor. You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis. Only on 1013 Jams. IMHO Talk Show.
We live in a society in which structural racism is a very real thing. We are all dealing with that in every aspect of our lives, and the media is a reflection of our community.
Historically, black people have been portrayed a certain way in the media to justify normative assumptions around political and social issues.
More black people behind the cameras, in front of the cameras, more producers, more people of color producing, so they can go and get the content that's needed so they can highlight our attributes.
I've been in this industry for 15 years, and I've seen firsthand how our voices just aren't heard. Even if you're in the newsroom, sometimes you get completely ignored and stereotypes are allowed to perpetuate. And one thing we want to do is combat that and also bring information to people so they can be as informed as possible when choices are made in the city, so they can do whatever they can to get their voices heard.
What I believe can be done about the situation is to have more people of color creating news stories, more people who have a interest in and a social consciousness that relates to the stories that they're telling.
Charlottesville Tomorrow looks at these issues. We can present them on IMHO. Vinegar Hill Magazine can take that a step further, and just together we can just make this thing that can be an example of how we can change the media landscape, how we can be more inclusive to get these voices in, to get these people heard. That's just one thing that doesn't happen in so many places, and it's a shame.
We think we live in a society that's very progressive, and we're talking about equity and diversity and inclusion and all these things. Still, the way that black people, and I would say, and I would argue especially black men, are portrayed by the media is incredibly dangerous, and you've seen the sort of tangible violence that it's led to over the past year.
The community can support the SIM project by first and foremost giving us an opportunity. We understand that it can be difficult to give trust right now, especially considering the current social and political environment. But this project will only be as successful as the community allows it to be. And so we ask you to give us the opportunity to do the work, critique the work, and make sure that we stay in line with the vision. Another way that the community can get behind the SIM project is through engagement. We want to hear from you. We want to know what you're talking about. We want to put your stories out there. And so whether
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor. You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis. Only on 1013 Jams. IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor. You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis. Only on 1013 Jams.
MHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis. Only on 101.3 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis. Only on 101.3 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show.
That's
How
it?
you doing? How you doing?
Doing good.
Well. What do we have here?
It's
Another
Sunday.
Sunday.
That's right.
That's right. Because you could be anywhere in the world, but you are here with us, and we
For sure.
certainly appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Sir Charles.
Miss Max.
In the booth in the building
You
one
know.
more again. And that's Max. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
the 3 hours when you're planning for it, it's like that's a long time.
Mm-hmm.
When you get started, you're like, this ain't enough time
For real.
to
Yep.
cover all that's going on in
Yep.
the world. But I think ultimately, right, we gotta take Seville to the world and bring the
That's
world
right.
to Seville.
Yeah.
What is most important? What do the people want to talk about?
Yeah.
Right.
And the thing that's most great about that is that the 3 hours get filled so easily because we got a lot of good content, a lot of great people in and around our community that are willing to come in and talk to us about the big topics these days. So
Facts. And always got to shout out our people. So much good stuff is going on in our community. So
Right.
like we'd be remiss if we didn't mention that, and don't want to miss anything. But I would say look on your social medias, y'all, because there's so much good giving back. It's the holiday season, and like we operate as a community, I would say on a pretty regular basis, but particularly
That's right.
Thanksgiving and Christmas, you got turkey drives, food donations and drives, toy and gift drives, all over the place. So definitely follow our page and follow the partners in the community pages to make yourself feel good.
That's
Max,
right.
I truly believe when we don't focus on ourselves so much, like when we're more selfless, right? And we focus on doing what's best for the whole instead of the part for the individuals, do it for the whole.
Yeah.
People are surprised how that gives you joy. You know what I think about Max? This is
Make
what I
you
want you
feel
to,
good.
yeah. Like sometimes people misconstrue giving, like when
Right.
it comes to church offering and stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, of course, there's some
For the building fund.
yeah, right. Now, don't get me wrong. Like, of course, there's some folk out there that misuse that side of scripture and all that stuff.
Right.
And but when it's done in a good spirit, when it's done right, you get blessed by giving.
That's right.
and by
That's true.
caring.
That's true. I mean,
Yeah.
if your heart's in the right place, right? And that's important whether you think so or not. We shouldn't be doing these things for selfish reasons, but you should truly have a heart for the people and for what you are doing, despite how they might receive the act or respond to it. If you did you did what was right in your actions, that you can hang your head on that. Before we move forward, Charles,
What we got?
because I
What you
don't
got?
think we actually mentioned the recent passing of Mr. Eugene Williams,
Thank you for that.
which is a pillar in the Charlottesville community. And I did not know him well, but I've certainly heard of his work and realized the significant impact and what he meant to the Charlottesville community, the Black community in the city of Charlottesville. And so I would like to take the opportunity to hold a brief moment of silence in honor of his living and the legacy he left here. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for that. Yeah, because we we definitely shared it on our pages for sure, paying homage, but that was definitely needed and definitely well deserved. I can tell you real quick, as a young man, sort of like building my chops like within the community, in regards of just organizing, being a spokesperson, being a leader in whatever space that I was in and was called to.
Yeah.
He was definitely there as a cornerstone and as an encouragement and as someone
At least that's my hope anyway, to leave something that someone else can stand on and reference as far as their future. So
good stuff. But that being said, it's a time to rejoice though, right?
That's right.
It's like you sad for the passing, but at the same time, you believe good folks are in a better place and at peace and at rest. So that's why we call it good news, Max. That's why we call it the word on the street, shouting out our good people and starting to show off with some inspiration, like our man Remy would say, attitude check,
right?
And he used some choice words when he be in live shows that we can't say on FCC airwaves,
right?
But that is what it is. And Max.
So about today's lineup.
Great show. You know what? The theme of today's show, like as always, I love when it organically comes together.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And we've had some huge elections locally. And as soon as Democrats win, they ready to mess it up historically. But that's why, this show, we had some big winners, local winners. We had history-making winners. And so the show just kind of came together with folks being available and wanting to come on to talk about their wins and where we go. Right? That's most important.
Right.
And I think hopefully people have learned that that's what we try to do, Max, is we want to have good, fun conversations, serious sometimes, but ultimately, like, where do these conversations go from there? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not enough to just talk. It's not enough to just self-grandize and pat each other on the back.
Right. What's next?
Yeah. What's next?
And our community will hold you accountable, right?
You know it.
So we will be visited today or joined today by none other than Ziona Bryant, no stranger to IMHO, no stranger to the city of Charlottesville, homegrown, no stranger to the nation.
That's right.
And as you all know, she was recently elected as the youngest individual elected to office for the Charlottesville School Board. And so we're here to celebrate with her. She did that. Here to celebrate her, but also talk about what's next, right?
That's right.
And as well as Katrina Carlson will be joining us, 54th District delegate. So big win for her as well. And then none other than Dr. Bellamy will be joining us to talk about his new book. What's it called?
Let's get it.
What's it called? Name of the book?
Nobody's Coming to Save
Us. That's it. Nobody's coming to save us.
So we got to dig into that.
That's right.
Who is nobody and who is us?
Right.
Tell me something, Dr. West. Let's figure it out.
So big topics.
Yeah.
All relevant.
Indeed.
Can't wait.
Indeed. All right. We're ready to take this break and then get this show on the road.
Let's do it.
All right. 101 Jams, IMHO. Stay tuned.
We live in a society in which structural racism is a very real thing. We are all dealing with that in every aspect of our lives, and the media is a reflection of our community.
Historically, black people have been portrayed a certain way in the media to justify normative assumptions around political and social issues.
More black people behind the cameras, in front of the cameras, more producers, more people of color producing, so they can go and get the content that's needed so they can highlight our attributes.
I've been in this industry for 15 years, and I've seen firsthand how our voices just aren't heard. Even if you're in the newsroom, sometimes you get completely ignored and stereotypes are allowed to perpetuate. And one thing we want to do is combat that and also bring information to people so they can be as informed as possible when choices are made in this city, so they can do whatever they can to get their voices heard.
What I believe can be done about the situation is to have more people of color creating news stories. More people who have a interest in and a social consciousness that relates to the stories that they're telling.
Charlottesville Tomorrow looks at these issues. We can present them on IMHO. Vinegar Hill Magazine can take that a step further, and just together we can just make this thing that can be an example of how we can change the media landscape, how we can be more inclusive to get these voices in, to get these people heard. That's just one thing that doesn't happen in so many places, and it's a shame.
We think we live in a society that's very progressive, and we're talking about equity and diversity and inclusion and all these things. Still, the way that black people, and I would say, and I would argue, especially black men, are portrayed by the media is incredibly dangerous, and you've seen the sort of tangible violence that it's led to over the past year.
The community can support the SIM project by first and foremost giving us an opportunity. We understand that it can be difficult to give trust right now, especially considering the current social and political environment. But this project will only be as successful as the community allows it to be. And so we ask you to give us the opportunity to do the work, critique the work, and make sure that we stay in line with the vision. Another way that the community can get behind the SIM project is through engagement. We want to hear from you. We want to know what you're talking about. We want to put your stories out there. And so whether it's reading the articles written by Charlottesville Tomorrow or Vinegar Hill Magazine, or tuning in to In My Humble Opinion on Sundays on 101.3 Jams from noon to 3 p.m., either way, we want you engaged. We want you to be part of this. The community can also support the SIM project through funding. To learn more about how to support SIM, you can visit our website. Thank you for your support.
We live in a society in which structural racism is a very real thing. We are all dealing with that in every aspect of our lives, and the media is a reflection of our community.
Historically, black people have been portrayed a certain way in the media to justify normative assumptions around political and social issues.
More black people behind the cameras, in front of the cameras, more producers, more people of color producing, so they can go and get the content that's needed so they can highlight our attributes.
I've been in this industry for 15 years, and I've seen firsthand how our voices just aren't heard. Even if you're in the newsroom, sometimes you get completely ignored and stereotypes are allowed to perpetuate. And one thing we want to do is combat that and also bring information to people so they can be as informed as possible when choices are made in this city, so they can do whatever they can to get their voices heard.
What I believe can be done about the situation is to have more people of color creating news stories. More people who have a interest in and a social consciousness that relates to the stories that they're telling.
Charlottesville Tomorrow looks at these issues. We can present them on IMHO. Vinegar Hill Magazine can take that a step further, and just together we can just make this thing that can be an example of how we can change the media landscape, how we can be more inclusive to get these voices in, to get these people heard. That's just one thing that doesn't happen in so many places, and it's a shame.
We think we live in a society that's very progressive, and we're talking about equity and diversity and inclusion and all these things. Still, the way that black people, and I would say, and I would argue, especially black men, are portrayed by the media is incredibly dangerous. And you've seen the sort of tangible violence that it's led to over the past year.
The community can support the SIM project by first and foremost giving us an opportunity. We understand that it can be difficult to give trust right now, especially considering the current social and political environment. But this project will only be as successful as the community allows it to be. And so we ask you to give us the opportunity to do.
I to the ism, H to the Izzo talk show.
That's right.
That's right.
Are you have lost the words, Charles?
I am lost the words. I am lost the word because I told you it's almost like an overwhelming event.
Mm-hmm.
It's like an overwhelming occasion because I don't take for granted when these lights come on.
Right.
You know, like when the meters start pegging
sure.
and the red lights start flashing and Kanisha over there counting down and Max staring at me. And then I have just so much intellectual elegance sitting in between us.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like you got to come correct.
That's right.
Or don't come at all, as they say.
Right.
And so that's why, I'm super excited right about now. And as we said, Max, today's show just kind of organically come together. And I think those are the best ones, wouldn't you say?
Mm-hmm.
You know, because there's so much going on in society, in the world. Right. Politicians crazy as ever. And locally, even, we had a midterm that was big. And some of the history that was made is we are joined by none other than the youngest ever elected to the Charlottesville School Board.
Ooh, yes.
None other than Zion Bryant. Without further ado, what's up, Zion?
Good afternoon. I was about to say good morning. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to join y'all today. I am just really humbled and honored to be elected, to be the youngest person elected to the Charlottesville School Board. I mean, that's one thing, but it's another thing to just know that it was a people-powered campaign. And I don't say that on a cliche level. We had so much community involvement from start to finish, announced March 1 this year, and now finishing on November 4th. It was a long journey, and people are asking, how do you feel? And I was like, for the first time ever, I was drinking energy drinks, coffee every day, and I'm just trying to keep the momentum up. And so people are are you on a high from the election win? And not necessarily. I'm on a high from engaging with people, showing up to things, meeting new folks, and coming up with new ideas. And I hope that continues to last into my transition onto the board. So I'm excited. Thank you.
Can I just tell you that one of the things that is pretty apparent in meeting with you today is that you seem really grounded. And I wonder, how do you feel? Because you didn't come in bouncing off the walls yay, woohoo, I won. You seem really grounded and just kind of solid, solid presence in terms of what just happened and what you will be stepping into, your new role.
Yeah, I mean, bouncing off the walls, maybe internally. But I mean, I'm growing up. I think that's a lot of people have watched my journey from middle school to now as a grad student. It's been a long journey. I've learned a lot. I've encountered some interesting things and learned some good lessons, and also I've gotten some really good wisdom from a lot of people in the community, and particularly over these past 3 months.
Okay.
I feel the summer was my divider. So I started in the spring, and then the summer came, and it's downtime. There's no school board meetings, things like that. But then we came out of the summer, and it was it's go time. August, everyone's August is when the yard signs start appearing and all the things. And so I felt August was going to be my main time to like be active in this election and with campaigning. So I feel like, yeah, it was a long process, but even from August to now, I would say the biggest thing that I did was I came up with strategy. Like I was very strategic with how I was going to find as many people as possible to even want to listen to me or talk to me and hear my ideas and share theirs. And I mean, I've had a few people talk to me, like, you know, journalists, reporters, people who run campaigns for a living, who said things like, this is an impressive school board campaign. I don't think I've seen one like it. And that's not to brag or say like, oh, we ran the best campaign ever, but it's to say that like, I was very strategic with the fact that I wanted it to be grassroots from start to finish. And so I stayed grounded in my community because that's always been the central point of my work.
Yeah.
Like if you listen to the school board candidate forum we had, community partnerships was one point that I wanted to hit home. So I feel like there were so many community comments, and that was like a thread throughout my entire campaign. So I'm grounded because I'm like, you know, we're still showing up even after winning. Like we had a school board meeting 2 days later and I was there attending, like giving public comment, being active and engaged. So I think it's not different in the way that I haven't done community engagement or I haven't been active and involved. It's different in the seat that I'll be sitting in the room, but I'll still be going to the same rooms that I've been going to and some new ones, right? Like, of course, some backdoor conversations will happen just because that's what boards do. But ultimately, I'm really excited to just like keep going. And so many people, I've met so many young people who are also inspired. And I'm just like excited to be able to be their voice at the table too, because that was like my number one point. It's fostering community and amplifying student voice. And that's what I hope to do.
I love it.
Let me ask you this question, because to your point, it did feel sometimes more like a political campaign or like almost like city office or like even something higher than that. And like that stood out to me. It like, was that sort of the intent? Because it felt very serious. And I say that coming from the perspective of a lot of times when you look at things like school board or whatnot, people kind of see it as, you know, it's just like a little volunteer thing. If I get it, I get it. If I don't, I don't. Like, but I think that kind of speaks volumes to how serious that you took it. You know what I mean? And you don't always see that in elections such as for school board. So was that intentional to make it feel like, no, this is serious? You know,
for sure, because I think that
play.
I think that the way that you lead a campaign, the way that you show that you are investing on the early side of it, like that's going to be the reflection of the dedication you're going to give when you're in office. So I wanted everyone to know that, like, no, I'm very serious about this. Like you said, I don't play. And in this moment, public education is a hot topic. Like there are attacks on public education. And so it was important for me to make that clear. This isn't just a volunteer position. You know, you have to get elected to be on the school board in Virginia. You have to go on the ballot. You have to collect signatures to get on the ballot. And then you have to get the votes. So it is a long process for those candidates who are running. It's a very serious job because anytime any article comes out about the schools or, you know, new data comes out, those elected officials are going to feel that because they get all the feedback and they get all the yelling and all the things. So it is definitely a serious office. But for me, it was also like my family's legacy with educational advocacy is so like, it's so solid and it's so important to me. It's a personal thing. So knowing that like 2 of my great uncles helped integrate schools here in Charlottesville, my great grandmother was a NAACP president. Like there are so many kind of common threads for me that bring me to this moment. And so I would expect that they would want me to take it seriously too. And they would expect me to bring the same level of energy and, you know, just like crossing my T's and dotting my I's that I bring to everything else. So I had to have that same energy. And so I wanted it to be thorough from start to finish. And I had a lot of support. Like I keep saying, I couldn't have done it by myself. There were so many people behind the scenes, family, mom, grandma, sisters who were showing up to help me. My partner, like so many just people who were like solid for me and who were like my rock. And so I'm grateful for them. Yeah.
Awesome. So really quickly, Charles, tell us how mom, grandma, and sisters are feeling about your win.
I think they're really proud. Like my sister, I have one sister who she says all of the interesting things. And she was like, no, like people need to clock it. Like I was so interesting. Like they need to clock it. Like
you bring it down for the old people.
Okay, clock it. Like you need to recognize. You need to understand that this is the moment. Like you did your thing, and so I appreciate that. I have 2 younger sisters who like. They really hold me down. That is always key. We are sisters, and my mom raised us to be super close, and we have the same initials. So with that being said, it's like it's written from the beginning. My grandmother, she knocked doors for Kamala Harris.
Over the moon, I'm sure.
She knocked doors for me.
Yes.
She knocks doors for anybody who she believes in and who she wants to win. And so
As it should
she's
be.
always been doing that. She had me phone banking for Obama in 2008, 2007, right? So, I mean, I'm grateful for her support. And then my mom is just like, my mom's more of the like background silent helper. She doesn't always talk out front and stuff, but she's always going to make sure things get done the way they need to, things get to where they need to go. And she's always a person who's thinking about the details. So without my grandma, my mom, my sisters, I know I couldn't have done it. And it was so special for Kamala Harris to shout my Nana out because she did put the work in for Kamala. Like we were at brunch the day that it was announced that Kamala would be, the candidate for the Democrat Party. And she was like, oh, we gotta start calling people. She started calling people at brunch, y'all. Like we were sitting there and she called like 3 people like, did y'all hear? And I was like, oh my goodness. And from that point on, she just kept going. So like, that's the energy. Yeah, that's the energy that like I have in my family. So it's natural.
It's awesome. We are speaking to none other than Miss Ayanna Bryant, newly elected to the City of Charlottesville School Board. Zai, let's dig deeper into your mindset going into this duty. Because you've worn a lot of hats, of like over your young life, and so you have such an upward trajectory, right? Because you're just getting started, right? Feels like still young, and so how do you compartmentalize though? Being a community organizer, being an activist, now public office. You know what I mean? To make sure that you're working to the best of your ability in those multitudes of spaces. You know what I mean? Because, I have to imagine that in some spaces, people are looking at you, they're leaning on you. They're like, you're the leader.
The great hope.
We don't know what to do unless you give marching orders. But in this space, there may need to be more collaboration. There may need to be some more give, right? Give and take. So what's your mindset going into this position?
Well, I'd challenge you to think a little bit more about why it has to be different. Like I would ask that question mainly because I don't think that it's necessarily there needs to be more give or more collaboration, because I am a community collaborator. So that's something that I've been doing. I do think that people sometimes don't want to have difficult conversations. And that's why it can seem like, we're not collaborating as much, because some people retreat and others walk towards it. And I'm one of those people who walk towards it. I think it will be an interesting mix of personalities on the board. I already perceived that just from attending and being active in like meetings and things like that. However, I was intentional coming into this entire like process to try to get meetings with some of the board members. I have met with Miss Dooley, who's the current chair. I've met with Miss Byrne. She's the vice chair. And so still having those meetings, I've talked with Ms. Cooper. Like I'm having those meetings and those conversations to try my best to like understand their perspectives and see how we can best collaborate once I'm on the board. But also like, I will say that there are some board members who have been super active in the community, and I appreciate their work. I always see Ms. Cooper out. I always see Ms. Burns out. And so like, naturally I've collaborated with them for a long time. So I look forward to being able to expand that. I look forward to being on the board and learning new information to better inform my opinions. Because right now, as private citizens, we just go to the board meetings. We can read the agendas. We can be active in other circles and spaces, but we don't have all of the information that board members have. So I do imagine that will alter some of the ways that I think about certain things. And I look forward to that. Like that's the good part about it. You're always learning, you're always being enlightened on new things. But no, absolutely. I look forward to collaborating with each of them. I do think that we have a lot of strong suits on the board. Mr. Meyer is like, all about infrastructure and buildings and the budget and things like that. Miss Torres is looking at early education, early learning, and she's really focused on that. And so I feel like those are just two examples of other people who I'm interested in collaborating with.
Gotcha. One thing that comes to mind, Max, just to piggyback off that, because I don't know if you're taking another direction, but like we all know that sometimes we're in spaces and sometimes we're the only Black person in the space, or may in you all's instance, maybe the only Black female, whatever the case. And so when you are looked at as sort of a representation or mouthpiece, say, whether it's been for teenagers or whether it's been for Black women or whatnot, I think we all have been in those spaces to where we got to find balances, right? And we got to find like the medians, especially within public education, to kind of bring my point home to you to get your feedback on is because we're already seeing it a lot. Of course, we want to get into what you think are the major issues that needs to be addressed in our city schools. But when we look at public schools, the term public is the key word, right? And so you're going to have some rich white families that feel like that the school environment should be a certain way. You're going to have middle class, you're going to have poor families, poor Black families. And so like, that's a pretty interesting ratio, if you go from whether it's poor white and rich Black or whatever the case is. And somehow we have to find unison to do what's best for the whole.
Absolutely.
And that's easier said than done. So I'm curious on your thoughts, like when you're in those school board meetings and they're yelling at you and calling you out your name, how you going to respond, Zai?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to respond in the most respectful way I can, right? Because at the end of the day, I mean, I was elected, so I do have a responsibility to hear everyone's opinions and voices. And like, that is different. That is going to be a new thing that I've been doing. I've been hearing different opinions, but it hasn't always been forced or like required. So that I look forward to engaging with different people. But even, something interesting, even during early voting, I met some of those parents who were like, I contemplated putting my kids into private schools because I don't like the direction of the schools right now. And we're having those conversations. They're like, why do you feel the way you do about SROs? Or can you tell me why you want to champion Black students so much? What about white students? Like I had those conversations in person with voters right before they went in to cast their ballots. Like that's the positive or like the advantage of showing up to early voting every day, which I did for the entire early voting period, starting September 19th all the way until November 1st, like that I was there every day showing up, whether it was 1 hour, 3 hours, 5 hours, I was talking with people. And anytime someone wanted to come up to me and ask me a question, I was willing to engage and respond. So I absolutely have said from the beginning, I'm there to represent every single student and to listen to every single perspective. And whether I disagree or I agree with them is one thing, but that will not alter my ability to want to still make a decision that will benefit everyone. And as I've said before, I do believe that when we work to support the students who are furthest in the margins, the families who are the most under-resourced, we allow the entire community to benefit. Because think about it, right? If we're saying that students who are not able to read on grade level, if there's correlation to other issues in the division, how would not focusing on literacy not benefit everyone, right? Or if we're saying that there are families who are not showing up who need more support, and we're saying, how can we get them vouchers for food or clothing or things like that to help them with their basic needs? How will that not benefit everyone? We think about crime, we think about all of these issues, these big issues in the community that have plagued Charlottesville for a long time. A lot of those things start with human needs. Like, what are the basic essential needs that people need to have met? And what can the schools do to be a partner in that? And also City Council has to step up, community partners, community organizations. But I believe that when we invest well in the community and into families, they will bring that positivity and those good outcomes into the schools. They'll be prepared to learn. Students will be prepared to learn. They'll be fed at home. They'll be in bed on time. They'll have the support from their parents to do the educational things they need to do. I think that all of those things are key, because sometimes when we get into these conversations about literacy or attendance, chronic absenteeism, there's this tendency to blame parents. But what we're not thinking about is the fact that a lot of these Black parents that we are blaming also went through Charlottesville City Schools and were victims of the same issues that we had. The achievement gap was a problem when they were in school. So how are we thinking about these issues in a generational lens and thinking about how we can approach them? Because if mom or dad didn't get a great education in Charlottesville City Schools and then they have kids and they're raising their children, what are we expecting to happen? There has to be an intervention somewhere. And I think that's where community partners and, a good community lens, a community-based vision comes into play.
That of course makes perfect sense to all of us, but I realize that there will be, I'm sure you do too, some individuals who hear that and they are still hearing that your priority will be working on behalf of the Black community or poor community. And so let's kind of peel it back to actually our community specifically. I realize that a lot of people who support you and who have voted for you from the Black community are looking at you as the great hope. And that's not to take away from anyone who, any Black person that's currently serving on the school board or has in the past, but they are looking to you to change things for their family. Their kids are getting lost in the cracks. They don't necessarily know how to fix it and may not necessarily be interested in trying to fix it. Nonetheless, they are putting their trust in you to go into that space and fix it for their family. And so I guess my question here, what I want to hear comments on is how you plan to be able to work in both spaces where you are making decisions for the betterment of the entire school body, and where you are also prioritizing the Black community or low income community specifically.
Well, I would invite people to revisit the strategic plan and the stated core mission and values of Charlottesville City Schools. Equity is at the center. So if we think about what equity means and we break that down, then that does look like continuing to think about and keep in mind the students who are furthest in the margins, while also keeping in mind the students who have the most resources, and finding that balance. That's what equity is all about. I am in no one's, what's the word? I'm no one's solution alone, right? Like in order to find policies, and to find solutions that will work for everyone, it will take, well, let's be clear, to make anything happen on a school board, or in Charlottesville School Board, you need 4 votes. So that's even to get something to be looked into, to get a motion, like to have a vote to even start a process requires 4 votes. So to the people who are looking at me like, well, what will you do? I will be 1 vote, right? But you're still going to need 3 more. And so I think it's important for people to show up to the school board meetings, engage with school board members, not just me, but all of us, because all of us have a vote and all of us have a role. And there may be, I do feel like everyone on any board brings their own strengths to the table. And so there are some people who are really well-researched and well-read and have a lot of experience in a certain area that I may not, but we will work together. And so I think that is why it's so important to show up to the school board meetings, write the emails, make the phone calls, meet with your school board members, meet with your city councilors, meet with your administrative folks at the school level of each school, wherever your child is attending, or if you don't have children, just be a partner. I think that's key. I do know that there are high expectations for me. I wouldn't sit here and act like I don't know that. But I don't think that's any different from any other moment that I've been through. I don't think that the pressure and the high expectations are new to me. They're not new to any young Black woman who runs for office. And luckily, we do have some really strong leaders on the board currently who I feel like are interested in hearing from the community more. And in fact, they want to hear from those parents whose students have been slipping through the cracks and who feel like they need more support. The board needs to hear your voice. Like, write an email, show up to the school board meetings, or if you see them in public at a, public event or some sort of public meeting, like maybe approach. Like, you don't have to accost them. You don't have to be aggressive or, you know, anything like that, but you can definitely invite them to have conversation. I feel like more often than not, they are open-minded and open to having conversation. I'm going to do my best, period. That's what I've been doing. And I feel like, again, that was reflected in the campaign, that was reflected in the care that I've put into schools before. I mean, I led a walkout when I was in Charlottesville City Schools. Calling for reform around SROs, calling for reform around how students were being enrolled in certain classes. Not enough Black students were in honors and AP courses, in my opinion, just from my seat in the room, like being there. So I did those things with the Black Student Union. I advocated for those things. I did the research regarding those things when I was at UVA. And so I feel like I'm prepared to be able to be at least in the room and on the board to have the conversations, and I will just do my best. But yeah, that's all I feel like I can offer at this moment. It's really going to be a steep learning curve for anyone who's new to coming onto an elected body. So I look forward to leaning in and learning more.
So let's provide some clarity to the listeners around some of the sort of social terminology that we use, because like we were throwing out terms such as poor, or whether Black or white, rich, or whatever the case is, because we realize that we're talking about public schools and like all of those feeder patterns that may be from different neighborhoods, or what the case is, different socioeconomics. Let's not forget too that we're seeing an influx in our community in Afghan immigrants as well, right? Who speak yet another language, you know, other than like English or Spanish, what have you. So has there, like, what can you tell us about community partnerships, even to bring support mechanisms in the fold, like for that population as well? And you know, because I want to point that out, because a lot of times, like, we have this tendency to think, oh, it's poor Black people that need all this help. You know what I mean? Like, but we have Black people that's in every socioeconomic status, right? And so, like I said, so you know, so I don't want to forget that we have Latinos and we have Afghans and folks like that who are also in different stratus. So I'm curious on any insight onto those marginalized groups.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I say the students who are furthest in the margins, I'm not just talking about Black students, and I'm very strategic with and intentional with my language around that, because I understand that. And, you know, we have the IRC, we have like groups like Creciendo Juntos. There are groups that are doing that work to make sure that those groups are getting some support. And so I think the school can continue to be in close partnership with those groups too, because it is unfortunately hard to reach every single part of the community. And that goes for every racial group, every ethnic group. But by investing in those community partnerships, I think we will do better and we'll see better outcomes. And so Charlottesville City Schools recently got a grant for like school communities or community schools grant. And so that's going to be interesting to see how it is structured and to see how it works in the school division. I do think that City of Promise is like kind of a smaller example of how that can work well. We can look outside of Charlottesville. We can look at the Harlem Children's Zone, which City of Promise is modeled after. And we can see how those kinds of community partnership-based organizations actually do help students succeed in school and help parents with assisting in their educational journeys as well. So absolutely, all of the voices need to be at the table. All of the ethnic groups and communities should be thought of and present in the room. And that is why I think the school division is doing more to do that community outreach. And I hope to be a part of that.
And we are kind of centering this part of the conversation around educational or academic is the word I'm looking for, advancement. But I've had, I guess, about 3 years of experience of having kids in city schools. And I wonder whether or not you have any thoughts on how to bring the student body itself create some coalesce or collection, a collected body when it comes to the student body itself. And I say that because when my kids got into the high school, it was kind of like, okay, these are like different worlds here. Like y'all don't engage with them. And, and whether you divide that by race or ethnicity, or you divide it by socioeconomic status, or you whatever. It's like y'all don't. So you don't engage with them like all day, every day. Like y'all don't talk to each other at all. Like what? Like okay, we need to fix that.
Tell us how you really feel, Ms. Matt.
I mean, that's real. Unfortunately, that was my experience too. Being in the honors AP course track. The lunches are structured around what classes you have at what time. So that does matter. Like all of the ways that the flow of the hallways, which hallways you even visit, that matters based on what courses you're enrolled in, which is why I was so passionate about that when I was in high school, to make sure that more Black students were getting into the honors and AP courses, because it's true. There were some friends that I had that were not in those courses that I did not see them at all every single day. I saw them outside of school only, maybe in the morning when we got off the bus or we entered and when we left for the day. So that is very real. But again, that's by design. Charlottesville High School, to be quite candid, has always been a tale of two high schools, in my opinion. I've experienced that, being the student who was in, again, those higher level courses, and then being a part of student council and National Honor Society and all of those things, like being a part of youth council appointed by city council. Like I saw the same students all day, every day, in every capacity. And so there's like, I mean, we were friends, right? We were cool. But at the same time, I do wish to see more of that kind of like, more of that diversity on every level within CHS. And I will say that it's gotten a little bit better since I've been at Charlottesville High School. I went to a theater performance on Friday, and that is the most diverse I've ever seen the theater department at Charlottesville High School. So I'm excited to see the progress that is happening. Progress does take time, and sometimes it feels way slower than we want it to be. But I will give credit where it's due and say that we must appreciate the wins that we do get. And so I felt really excited being there, seeing two Black boys prominent in the production, and seeing like an array of Latinx students, you know, a part of it too. And so it's just like, I'm excited by that. But I will say that Tier 1 instruction, starting at the very bottom, when we talk about literacy, when we talk about math, that is also important. And people act as if it doesn't matter, but that is going to, if we don't pay attention to it on the elementary school level, it will show up in high school, because those students who are the AP and honors course level, they had that good instruction from the beginning, and it just continued. That if you don't have solid foundation, you don't build upon something solid. And I mean, I do think that as we continue to think more about how we are doing those interventions, how we're supporting those specialists on the elementary school level, we will continue to see those trickle down effects later on in their educational journeys. And I can say that I've been through that myself. I started my educational journey out at St. Anne's Belfield, and I have to say that I got a good foundation there. I got a good academic foundation. And though it wasn't the best place for me, I felt socially. And though I feel like if I didn't come into CCS, I wouldn't have some of the experiences that I did, which I'm so grateful for. I can say that that early start is so important, and having those foundational elements all in a good place. So I will say Ms. Dooley, Ms. Torres, Ms. Burns, Ms. Cooper have all said good things about that, and they're focused on that. And I think it's important for us to think more about that, because we always talk about SOL scores, or we talk about, oh, our students are so low in comparison to other schools across the state, but we have to think like about what that means on an everyday basis, like what that means in the classroom.
Good stuff. Well, Zach, we are up against the hour. Let's take a quick break if you don't mind. And when we come back, when we close out, we can have some final questions and make sure there's nothing we missed in regards of, you know, like your key issues starting off as a school board. All right. Stay tuned, y'all. And, you know, take a bio break. Tell a friend. We'll be right back with none other than newly elected youngest ever school board representative for the city of Charlottesville, Ms. Zayana Bryant.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
We live in a society in which structural racism is a very real thing. We are all dealing with that in every aspect of our lives, and the media is a reflection of our community.
Historically, black people have been portrayed a certain way in the media to justify normative assumptions around political and social issues.
More black people behind the cameras, in front of the cameras, more producers, more people of color producing, so they can go and get the content that's needed so they can highlight our attributes.
I've been in this industry for 15 years, and I've seen firsthand how our voices just aren't heard. Even if you're in the newsroom, sometimes you get completely ignored and stereotypes are allowed to perpetuate. And one thing we want to do is combat that, and also bring information to people so they can be as informed as possible when choices are made in this city, so they can do whatever they can to get their voices heard.
What I believe can be done about the situation is to have more people of color creating news stories, more people who have a interest in and a social consciousness that relates to the stories that they're telling.
Charlottesville Tomorrow looks at these issues. We can present them on IMHO. Vinegar Hill Magazine can take that a step further, and just together we can just make this thing that can be an example of how we can change the media landscape, how we can be more inclusive to get these voices in, to get these people heard. That's just one thing that doesn't happen in so many places, and it's a shame.
We think we live in a society that's very progressive, and we're talking about equity and diversity and inclusion and all these things. Still, the way that black people, and I would say, and I would argue especially black men, are portrayed by the media is incredibly dangerous, and you've seen the sort of tangible violence that it's led to over the past year.
The community can support the SIM project by first and foremost giving us an opportunity. We understand that it can be difficult to give trust right now, especially considering the current social and political environment. But this project will only be as successful as the community allows it to be. And so we ask you to give us the opportunity to do the work, critique the work, and make sure that we stay aligned with the vision. Another way that the community can get behind the SIM project is through engagement. We want to hear from you. We want to know what you're talking about. We want to put your stories out there. And so whether it's reading the articles written by Charlottesville Tomorrow or Vinegar Hill Magazine, or tuning into In My Humble Opinion on Sundays on 101.3 Jams from noon to 3 p.m., either way, we want you engaged. We want you to be part of this. The community can also support the SIM project through funding. To learn more about how to support SIM, you can visit our website. Thank you for your support.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Back like we never left. IMHO Talk Show. Tell a friend, tell a friend.
For sure.
If you hadn't already, because we are joined by the youngest in charge, Zayana Bryant. And we're going to let Razor kick off this final segment, which is he got something for you.
Hello.
Hi.
Got a question for you. You know, I saw something recently about the SOL scores, and it bothered me because the ranking of how many schools it was and where Charlottesville ranked as according to Black students with success was at the bottom, right? While everybody's first notion is to say how you're disappointed in it, right? I started thinking about the community, and I wondered, for the literacy rate to be so low for our students in the ranking, I'm wondering, does that go over to the parents? Like, how many of these illiterate kids have illiterate parents?
Right. That's interesting. When we were talking at our candidate forum, that was front of mind for me. I think that this is not a cop out for the schools before I even start my comments. So I just want y'all to know that. But I want to start by saying that SOL scores do not tell the full story of our division. And so I want people to understand that there are some kids who are just not good test takers. Some students are just not strong test takers. And that doesn't mean that they aren't learning in school. So I just want to be clear about that. I think also the standardized tests are a real problem. They really are. And I mean, yes, we need to have a way to measure what's happening in the schools, and we need to be able to hold schools accountable. Absolutely. And I do think that standardized tests have been proven over and over and over again to not be good indicators of all of those things. So I think that we have to start there. But then I will say to the parents, yes, we have to hold our families and our community accountable. I think there should be more all hands on deck approach to literacy, similar to how there's all hands on deck approach for athletics and all the other things. We have to put that same energy into school. And I don't say that to blame or bash parents. I say that just to say that I want to come to the table with our families and with our community, and we have to find a solution. And whether that looks like more summer programming to make sure that students come into the school year with more support, maybe that's where we start, right? But if we could get some of that level of participation that we see at community events on these issues when it comes to our education, I think we would see a much different outcome, and we would have a different conversation this time next year. So I'm interested in seeing what that looks like. But no, it is a problem. We cannot, I would never deny that the achievement gap is not a problem. But like I said earlier in this interview, like, the achievement gap has been a problem since I was in elementary school. We were talking about these same exact things. And so I think that's why it's almost like baffling or just like confusing to a lot of people, because we're wondering why are we not able to find solutions to be able to address the achievement gap? And I will say that this is a problem that is plaguing every single state. Like, you know, like this is a nationwide problem where literacy is a problem, where technology is taking over, where students are not as engaged in their learning, where parents are having to work more and maybe they're not able to be as active with homework time and reading before bed and things of that nature. I mean, there are a lot of things that are happening on the federal level that are trickling down and affecting families in their everyday life. So I think it's important to think about all of those things. It's a complex, complicated issue, but it will take a multifaceted approach. And I think that there are people on the board now, maybe not when I was in school, that were like as focused on the achievement gap, but I do feel like there are people who do care about it. And I look forward to asking some of those questions when I'm on the board and I have access to more information and, you know, I'm able to have a different perspective.
This is the only, like, not pushback, but I don't know if you're old enough to remember something called Ebonics.
Sure.
That when there were people who made a very similar assessment that you just said. And so Ebonics was birthed. And the problem I have with it, with hindsight, is that we're celebrated for, you know, if we run around rapping, cussing, calling women out their name, or like any type of thing, right? And that carries over to our education, the way that the kids talk in school. I see it when I go pick up my kids. And when we decide that, okay, these tests are biased and white racist and, you know, all the different things. And then we ask our kids to not accept them, but then go out into the real world and ask for jobs and can't fill out applications and can't perform well in an interview. It's kind of confusing. And I think part of the problem why we were such great creators for America's history and not so much anymore besides the Dougie and the line dancing and everything else is because our family dynamic is messed up. Like, we have more children that I believe, in my humble opinion, that the majority of these children that are failing come from single parent households that don't have the dynamic where mom can be the nurturer and not have to be everything. And then dad is being portrayed in society as a deadbeat just because him and mom may not have worked out. And then the kids aren't allowed to express themselves without being labeled as having a problem, being put on Ritalin and ADHD medicine and being depressed. And it's just so many things that go into being a Black child that affects us in different ways that we're not always able to speak about. Because, and I say this in the most humble way to all my people that don't look like me, I should be able to say that I don't like something without a white teacher telling me that I need some counseling, or I need to come talk to somebody, or I need to come, somebody needs to come to your house and sit with you and all these other things, right? So y'all have an impossible job to me to try to make the education gap decrease when society is saying it's okay for you to cuss as long as you put on a rap song. It's okay for you to be athletic, but be dumb as a brick. Or like they told LeBron, shut up and dribble. I mean, that's a real thing. Right. And the same children that everybody wants to help, wants to chastise them once they turn 18 and send them to the prison pipeline. So that's just my take. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I think you brought up a lot of big things. All of these things, again, are on my mind as we think about how we are handling students, because students are so, I mean, they have lives too. They're not just, you know, they have social things that are going on in the background before they get to school. They have home situations. And so it is so important to lead with care. I think number one, like having that care perspective is how you resource students and support them and let them know that school is a safe space and that they have genuine support. When students feel supported, they do better. I mean, when they feel like there's someone in the building who they can go to in a moment of crisis or just like a bad day, like that means a lot. And I don't think we talk about that enough. So having good support staff that is trained to handle all of these things is key. They can't, again, be the one solution like we talked about earlier, but they can do their best to do their part to help support students. I'll also say that we talk about the school to prison pipeline. I mean, when we talk about SROs and we talk about student interaction with police, I think that's also something that we should be thinking about. There are just so many complex issues, so many complicated issues that play into the schools. And I mean, your assessment is that school board members have an impossible job. Some people may agree with you. Some people may disagree and say, well, they can do more to address the achievement gap. And I think that we should be hearing all of those perspectives and trying our best to find solutions that work for all students. But yes, Black students in particular, as your question was about the scores of Black students being at the bottom. I do think that it's important to note that from last year, our SOL scores did actually go up. It was a decent increase. It wasn't the biggest jump, right? But also, let's also think about the fact that the state education, the State Board of Education, they changed the goalpost. Like they're you know, right. So the lines change, the kind of threshold changes. And so it has changed from this past school year to now. So if that did not happen, I think that increase in scores of students who are passing those SOL scores would actually be a little bit bigger. It would look differently. So it's reflected differently each year or each time they change the goalpost. I do I will continue to say that I think we need to have an all hands on deck approach to supporting families so that they can support their students. And I'm hopeful with the new grant that I mentioned earlier that Charlottesville City Schools just got for community schools. I'm hopeful with the work that United Way is doing, City of Promise, all of the Abundant Life. There are so many organizations who are working to try to do things outside of school to support students. And I just hope that we lean into that more, that the board leans into it more, and that the community puts their money where their mouth is, their time where their mouth is, and shows up to volunteer, to be an active participant and partner with the school division on these issues.
You know, go ahead.
I was just going to say what's very interesting about that, though, is that, and please understand where I'm coming from. It's almost like diversity, equity, and inclusion can backfire. And what I mean by that is that, because something that I even heard Razor say out of that is, then we go into a society where these partnerships we're talking about on how we as a people in this community need to do more. We don't have our structure in place. So we're telling our kids to be themselves, and we embrace our culture and all that. And we're going into a world that does not accept our culture. Like they expect you to blend in with status quo, with, like whatever that may be. So then it makes me think about private school. We mentioned private school earlier. People go to private schools because they have a structure, like they have a methodology that you agree with. Your kid is going there because they're going to do this. In a public school setting, you have to appease everybody. That's what makes it public school. So I think, so even though it may not be impossible, Razor, like that's what makes like the task like so great, though, right? Because you're trying to bridge all of these gaps of all of these cultures, all of these people, all these religions. You know what I mean? So
I don't know if it's DEI backfiring. I will say that for every moment of social change that we can point to in our nation's history, there's always a response. When we had integration, we had massive resistance. When we have 2020, the protests, we have Black people organizing collectives, mutual aid, we see pushback, we see criminalization of those efforts. So if we pay attention to the history of how progress really works, people say that time is circular, history is circular, because for every time we find advancements, we find solutions to issues, the problem then morphs into something different. And so that is why, again, I think the achievement gap issue is so hard. Again, this is not an excuse for why the scores have looked so bad for so long when it comes to standardized testing in Black students. But I will say that for every time there's a little bit of progress, we see another challenge. And so it's important to keep that in mind. So I am a full supporter of DEI. I've said that in every space. I will continue to say it because diversity is key. Our schools are already diverse. Charlottesville High School is one of the most diverse high schools in our area. Inclusion is key because students need to feel like they're included in the space. Equity, again, is already a stated goal of Charlottesville City Schools. So I believe that all of those things should remain central to the work moving forward.
Agree.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that the lens that I see mostly anything, and as far as I view the world, is that of like a human-centered one. And so I do hear y'all talking about SOL test, standardized test, and numbers and this, that, and the other. But all I visualize is the human being, the little kid whose life gets decided for him, who ends up on drug, shot, or in jail, who ends up living a life well below what he can actually accomplish just because of the lack of support, resources, what have you. And so I mention that because, like Razor, I read a report that the city spends more dollars per student, budgets maybe more dollars per student than those in its region, maybe even across the state. And apparently that's still not working because it has not improved the achievement gap. And so I would think that one needs to then kind of look at what other pieces do we need to consider, and areas are we failing at? And for me, it becomes pretty obvious, details that I have, is that it's how we are not creating that safe space, how we are not filling our schools with teachers and faculty who the students feel like are truly invested in their futures, who truly care about them, and who feel like their lives matter to them, right? And it does not seem to me like that is happening. I'm not in school all day, every day. But from a distance, right? And from reports, it doesn't seem like that part is happening, right? And like I said, I've had a few kids in the Charlottesville City Schools where I've had some experiences with that. And we need to emphasize that element of success and the impact it has on an individual's life more, because we show up and we ask city council year after year for more dollars, for more resources. But there's some disconnect because these resources are not generating any more success in these students' lives.
And like you said earlier, you said it has to be human-centered.
Right.
Yeah.
The people have to be at the
right.
For sure.
So
For sure. I do think that there are still some things that have been truthfully just ignored and pushed to the side for a long time. The reason why Charlottesville City Schools is having to continue to ask for more budget for the, capital improvement fund or plan is because there's deferred maintenance for years and years. We've had board members who have decided to not focus on the infrastructure of these buildings and the things that needed to be repaired. And now we're seeing some really bad issues coming to the surface. So I think you will continue to see requests to City Council for more funding, because our students do deserve better buildings and they do deserve to have classroom spaces that are up to date for the, the current moment, and modernized and all of those things. So that is a part of the equity work too. We need our schools to be, to actually be conducive for learning. I will say that, to your point though, it feels like there are some things that haven't worked despite the high spending per pupil. And I will say that from my vantage point, there should be some questions asked about how resources are being spent and allocated. But I think that comes from, I think City Council can have more accountability for Charlottesville City Schools if there's a closer relationship. But as of now, it feels like I've been to some of those budget work sessions and meetings. It feels like the conversation is pretty much just about the budget. But if there's a closer communication and partnership between City Council and school board, which there should be, in my opinion, I think we'll see some different strategies around spending and a little bit more transparency or clarity about where we are with that. So I would support that. And I said that before too. I do think that there should be a closer connection with school board and City Council, more collaboration there. And even because most of the issues we've mentioned this today are not controlled by the school board. Like these are issues of resources in the community for families. These are issues of like local economics, like the local economy, so that's bigger than the purview of the Charlottesville City School Board, right? So that's why they need to have a closer connection and work closer together on these issues.
Absolutely. We are joined by Zah Bryant. Zah, the last thing that I have for you as we wrap up is you mentioned SROs, but we didn't really dig into it. And so now you're post campaign, you've won, you're here, and so just to get your takeaway on that is very important. And let me sort of preface your answer though by throwing out maybe the most telling thing that I recall hearing from the conversation is the schools, specifically let's look at CHS. It's proven, and they have a rate of that police will be called to the school. So just kind of go on this journey with me, whether you agree with that or not. Sure. But
well, if it's a fact, I can't disagree with that.
Right. Yeah. So school reps, principals, administrators say police are being called to the school. So the number one support that I hear of why it's not a bad idea is that wouldn't you want an officer to have built a relationship with students versus it looked like police are just storming your school and it'd be a stranger. And so folks say that if officers are going to be called and going to be there, then why not have somebody there that students are familiar with? So that stood out to me when I heard these conversations. So I'm curious on your take and opinion now about SROs.
I mean, I take that point into consideration for sure. I definitely heard that as well. Something else that I heard though is that I've advocated for, and others in the community have asked the question of what about close proximity, right? There is this conversation about there being a lot of phone calls to the police and that's why they should be in the building. Well, how come if students, and if we know the history of Charlottesville Police Department, we know, like, not to say that things haven't changed for the better, they haven't progressed, people have different opinions on that, but we know that there's a complicated history with that. We know that racial profiling is a real thing, bigger than Charlottesville. It's national, it's international. Racial profiling is a thing with police in general. So I think that my kind of caution around that is, I thought close proximity would be interesting, because rather than them being in the halls, what about being on the site of the school, but just not in the building or not in the hallways? That's something that I thought about. And other people have asked those questions at the SRO info hours. So I would have been interested to hear that taken into account. Let's keep in mind that in the beginning, there was funding for 4 full-time positions. The budget was going to be like $800,000, and that has since decreased to 2 full-time positions. And I think that goes to show that there was not the explanation from the start to justify that expenditure for that. And I mean, if we're talking about spending per pupil and we're talking about budget and we're talking about city resources, let's have those conversations too. And then I would just say students have voice. The student rep who speaks during the school board meetings and is like our, speaks for the student body, made a comment at one of the last school board meetings. I don't know if it was the most recent or the one before, that students are concerned about the officers having guns in the hallways in the school. That is a real concern. And if I have wanted to push anything, it's been student voice to the forefront. And so I feel like that should be heard. And I do think school board members are hearing it. And I hope that that is reflected in the process that this MOU working group is thinking about as they try to craft an MOU. The reality is that it has been voted on. The MOU process is moving forward. I look forward to being a part of that process and learning more and leaning in and asking the questions. But also I want to say that SROs is an interesting topic, but unfortunately it became the main focus for this entire election of the school board. And that's not the only issue, but it does matter. And, the school to prison pipeline matters, the achievement gap matters. And so how students are even flowing in the hallways, all of those things are deeper than just what we see on the surface. And I think that's why we should lean into these conversations and have them. So yeah, that's my
where folks can come hear from you or give feedback, you tell the folks how to reach you.
Well, I come onto the board in January,
okay.
So there won't be any public hearings or anything like that until after January, but I'm always accessible, happy to be in conversation with folks. I feel like I get emails all the time, so apparently people know how to find me. But my campaign website is still up and contact info is on there. So if anyone wants to learn more about my positions, my priorities that we didn't have the chance to get to today, you can find them at ZianaBryantforCCS.com and reach out. There's contact info on there. I'd love to be having these conversations.
Let me just manifest something real quick. So Kamala Harris runs for the presidential election again, and she wins, and then she hires Ziona Bryant to serve on her administration. Let me just put that out there in the atmosphere. She called you, right?
All we can do is hope. Yes. So she did call me last week. I was at CHS for the food pantry to drop off some items there. And I got a no caller ID call, and it was like 3-something on a Tuesday. So I'm like, who is calling me at this time? And so I answered it, and I was like, hello. And they were like, is this Ziona Bryant? And I was like, well, yes, it is. And then I was like, who is this? And I couldn't hear, technology. I was trying to connect to my car and stuff. And then I didn't hear it. So she said, Kamala Harris. And I said, who? And she said, Kamala Harris. And I said, oh, and then it started to click. And I was like, oh, this is the Kamala Harris. So, I'm definitely grateful that she's paying attention to a school board race in Charlottesville, Virginia. I mean, but also Charlottesville is a big deal. Charlottesville has a lot of great things that are going on and a lot of good work, and people are paying attention to that. So that encourages me and makes me hopeful for the future. And also just that every vote matters, every vote counts, from your top of the ballot races, your gubernatorial elections and things of that nature, all the way down to your school board races. It matters to have people run for office who have good ideas and who want to make change. And I'm just grateful that she is even paying attention to that and took the time out of her busy schedule, because she's like on a book tour right now, to call me and to congratulate me and just even to like talk to me about a few things, like why was I running or how does it feel? Like it was a very personal conversation. And that was like, that blew my mind too, because it wasn't just like, congrats, hang up. It was, she was interested in hearing about what I had going on. I was telling her that evening I was going to the 100 Black Men of Central Virginia's meeting. And she was like, so at the end of the call, she's like, oh, be on time to your meeting. And I was like, yep, just making a stop and on my way there. Like, it felt like she cared and that she continues to care. And, you know, I pray that she continues to do her thing and that we continue to benefit from all of the things that she's done. Madam Vice President I don't think she's done. I don't know what's next for her, but I do know that her time as a vice president really inspired a lot of young people. And that is why I think we're seeing such a diverse crowd of young people running for office all across the country. So that's encouraging, inspiring, and I look forward to doing my part here on the local level.
And you was like, quit playing. It's a telemarketer.
I know. I was like, no
Hang up and call back.
I thought it was your little sister or something.
That's star 67. Yeah. So
but did she remind you that these MFers are crazy? It should remind you of that because the world need to remember that these MFers, just like she said.
She said there's some good things going on and some bad things going on. Those were her words.
And I agree. All right, Ms. I, thank you as always. And you know, we never can get to everything in one setting, but it just gives us reason to keep inviting you back. Sorry.
Thank you.
We're gonna have you back whether you like it or not.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
All right, y'all stay tuned. IMHO. Who next, Max? We got somebody waiting for us.
Katrina?
Yeah, Delegate Carlson, 54th District, another win. So we're going to keep the good times rolling. IMHO Talk Show.
We live in a society in which structural racism is a very real thing. We are all dealing with that in every aspect of our lives, and the media is a reflection of our community.
Historically, Black people have been portrayed a certain way in the media to justify normative assumptions around political and social issues.
More Black people behind the cameras, in front of the cameras, more producers, more people of color producing, so they can go and get the content that's needed so they can highlight our attributes.
I've been in this industry for 15 years and I've seen firsthand how our voices just aren't heard. Even if you're in the newsroom, sometimes you get completely ignored and stereotypes are allowed to perpetuate. And one thing we want to do is combat that and also bring information to people so they can be as informed as possible when choices are made in this city so they can do whatever they can to get their voices heard.
What I believe can be done about the situation is to have more people of color creating news stories, more people who have a interest in and a social consciousness that relates to the stories that they're telling.
Charlottesville Tomorrow looks at these issues. We can present them on IMHO. Vinegar Hill Magazine can take that a step further, and just together we can just make this thing that can be an example of how we can change the media landscape, how we can be more inclusive to get these voices in, to get these people heard. That's just one thing that doesn't happen in so many places, and it's a shame.
We think we live in a society that's very progressive, and we're talking about equity and diversity and inclusion and all these things. Still, the way that Black people, and I would say, and I would argue, especially Black men, are portrayed by the media is incredibly dangerous, and you've seen the sort of tangible violence that it's led to over the past year.
The community can support the SIM project by first and foremost giving us an opportunity. We understand that it can be difficult to give trust right now, especially considering the current social and political environment. But this project will only be as successful as the community allows it to be. And so we ask you to give us the opportunity to do the work, critique the work, and make sure that we stay aligned with the vision. Another way that the community can get behind the SIM project is through engagement. We want to hear from you. We want to know what you're talking about. We want to put your stories out there. And so whether it's reading the articles written by Charlottesville Tomorrow or Vinegar Hill Magazine, or tuning in to In My Humble Opinion on Sundays on 101.3 Jams from noon to 3 p.m. Either way, we want you engaged. We want you to be part of this. The community can also support the SIM project through funding. To learn more about how to support SIM, you can visit our website. Thank you for your support.
We live in a society in which structural racism is a very real thing. We are all dealing with that in every aspect of our lives, and the media is a reflection of our community.
Historically, black people have been portrayed a certain way in the media to justify normative assumptions around political and social issues.
More black people behind the cameras, in front of the cameras, more producers, more people of color producing, so they can go and get the content that's needed so they can highlight our attributes.
I've been in this industry for 15 years, and I've seen firsthand how our voices just aren't heard. Even if you're in the newsroom, sometimes you get completely ignored and stereotypes are allowed to perpetuate. And one thing we want to do is combat that and also bring information to people so they can be as informed as possible when choices are made in the city, so they can do whatever they can to get their voices heard.
What I believe can be done about the situation is to have more people of color creating news stories, more people who have a interest in and a social consciousness that relates to the stories that they're telling.
Charlottesville Tomorrow looks at these issues. We can present them on IMHO. Vinegar Hill Magazine can take that a step further, and just together we can just make this thing that can be an example of how we can change the media landscape, how we can be more inclusive to get these voices in, to get these people heard. That's just one thing that doesn't happen in so many places, and it's a shame.
We think we live in a society that's very progressive, and we're talking about equity and diversity and inclusion and all these things. Still, the way that black people, and I would say, and I would argue especially black men, are portrayed by the media is incredibly dangerous, and you've seen the sort of tangible violence that it's led to over the past year.
The community can support the SIM project by first and foremost giving us an opportunity. We understand that it can be difficult to give trust right now, especially considering the current social and political environment. But this project will only be as successful as the community allows it to be. And so we ask you to give us the opportunity to do the work.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max, Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max, Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max, Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
HO Talk Show. Sir Charles.
Yeah, thank you for having me here.
So Katrina, like I said, you're no stranger to us or to our show, and hopefully, folks, remember who's been along for this ride. We've almost 10 years, Katrina, with this show. We're going on 10 years this January.
Oh, I believe it, and it's a great service for our community. You were the first when I ran for school board in 2017. You were actually the first news organization that reached out to me for an interview. So y'all are doing the work. And I appreciate it.
Love it. That's why I started the intro off that way, because it's been a pleasure watching you grow as well, and and like all the steps like as you've achieved like within your career path of public service. It's been great. And so Max, like from the beginning, it's almost like we're locked in step, with Katrina Carlson. As she goes, so does IMHO. Right. And so once again, just congratulations on this midterm. And so, like, how are you feeling? Because like sometimes folks get a little taste of public office and they get frustrated and they're like, like these folks are crazier than I thought, maybe. And but then there's some folks who, such as yourself, such as Senator Deeds, you get in there and you make change and you stay within the community, which is a beautiful thing. So, so how are you feeling just in general? Going into 26.
Well, if you're watching, you saw me pull away from the microphone, so I can laugh at that because I have definitely had my fair share of being like, what is going on up here? This is crazier than I thought. So that being said, I don't know why, but I've been able to be successful at it. There were 34 freshmen elected House of Delegate members 2 years ago, and I passed more bills into law both my first year and my second year out of any of those, with the fourth highest pass rate out of 100. So there's my little pat myself on the back. That being said, it is absolutely crazy up there, and I'm just trying to fight, keep fighting the good fight and doing the work because I feel like it matters, and I feel like we need people that are reasonable, rational, and willing to work hard without.
So about getting that many bills through in your first term, was that an intentional decision, or did you just see that many problems and saw the need to put those bills forward?
Yeah, I think what helped me get that many bills passed, and I'm happy to, talk through some of them, but the pass is a pass. I'm trying to bring some new bills. We'll see. And I'm happy to talk about those too. I'm going to see. I did a lot of criminal justice bills. And I think what helped me there is that I'm a lawyer, that I used to work for the city. And so being able to read the laws, there's not that many lawyers elected right now. So being able to read through the laws and understand where there were pain points was really, I think, impactful and helped me talk about those and get them passed. I'll bring up one quick example. There was actually this kind of loophole that was happening in our system that when people were arrested for probation violations, or at least put into jail for probation violations, their cases didn't necessarily get kicked off right away because it's a different type of paperwork that happens there. It's called a PB-15, which doesn't automatically get you in front of a judge. And we were actually finding there was someone who was in jail for 4 months. That's the most egregious case, but for 4 months, on a probation violation that would get you 10 days waiting for his hearing on it. So that was something that I was able to go in. And even though this last term, there was a Republican governor and he vetoed almost all criminal justice bills, that I was able to get support and get passed because nobody wants something like that happening.
Yeah. Awesome. And there's some things that we've been talking about, Max, that's been top of mind for us, big as far as like for our state and how it affects us here. But before we go into more specifics with those, how are you just feeling in general about how the election turned this midterm, right? Because I see, folks that want to reach across the aisle, but it's almost like we got so politically polarized, like by current leadership, to where it was like I can't even like reason right now. So when you look at the shift that Virginia made, how do you feel about that? What's your hopes going forward with the new folks we're going to have in the state office?
I am feeling fantastic. That was one of the best election nights I've been through. And I'll tell you why. And I think there's a lot of Virginians who feel like this. The craziness that is happening in DC, the chaos and how it affects us here in Virginia, it's getting old. And I think there's a real desire to be able to stand up and push back. And what we did in Virginia was actually historic. It was the largest jump in our majority. And I don't know the exact stats, but so we're going to say over 40, we'll say 40 years. I've heard different people say different things. People are trying to like figure out the history, but it's like a decades long record that we just set. It has sent a message across the nation, actually, that Republicans need to get back to the basics with people, that what people are really focused on, which is food, housing, economics, jobs. It is not culture wars. It is not talking about bathrooms, which is all they talked about. It is not those things. And that means something to me. It was exciting. I will say, I'm not taking it as some kind of mandate that it's going to be nothing but Democratic priorities. I think it was more like people are tired of the political games, if that makes sense. That's what I took it as. And I'm excited. I'm excited to get to work. We have a huge majority. I think it's going to help us. You can cut me off anytime, Charles. I think it's going to help us have more robust conversations about issues. So flock cameras, for example, is one.
Yeah, that's something we've been talking about. Flock cameras. So
the way that session's gone so far, we have a 1-seat majority until these new people get sworn in. And so in order to get anything passed, you have to be in lockstep with everyone next to you. And it can make it so that when there's more debatable issues, places where even Democrats might not fully align, those things just don't get discussed right now. They certainly don't get discussed openly because there's too much strife. So having more people will allow us to have some of those more in-depth conversations. I voted against flock cameras.
Okay.
I did. That was one. That's why one that comes to mind.
It's refreshing to a lot of our listeners to hear that.
Yes, I did. But I will tell you what that looked like behind the scenes was a lot of pressure. A lot of pressure. Now, wait a minute. We have a Democrat that's bringing this bill. There needs to be a vote here. And it didn't appeal to me. So I'm looking forward to having some of those conversations more openly about why and what we support as legislation. Flock, I didn't agree with Flock. I certainly...
Why not?
Why didn't I agree with it? All kinds of reasons. You don't know... When you give power away to someone, it's really hard to take it back in. I want to be supportive of our police officers, but they have lots of ways that they can do investigative work. And we have lots of protections to make sure that they have to seek out reasons why they might be investigating someone. So giving them a broad grant of power to kind of surveil is problematic for me, especially in today's climate when we don't know if it's going to be tied to ICE enforcement. We don't know if federal people are going to be able to tap into those videos. I say this as a woman who has dealt with family law. I think about domestic cases. One of my constituents said you can actually put in a request and find all the images of your car that have been collected. And I'm just thinking as someone who might have domestic violence or partner violence in their relationship, how you could, it just doesn't sit right with my soul, basically. Something about it. It doesn't.
I think Reza had a comment about that.
I have a question. And this is one of the questions that's like, Black people have conversations that they have amongst themselves, and then they have conversations that they feel they can have in public that won't be attacked to a certain point. one of the conversations that I used to hear in the barbershop was that it's never a problem how, when Charles asked you about Flock, it's never a problem how people are being mistreated until it's other people besides Black people. So then in its entirety, everybody seems to reach back to the Black community to ask for help because they want to say they're treating all of us the same until rules and regulations get changed for whatever group came to the Black organizations. And when you spoke about Flock and you were talking about ICE and you were talking about these things, right? It just has a name to it now, but it always has been for people of color, whether you call them African Americans, Black, colored, whatever, throughout the course of history. It's just being spread out to other individuals now besides just what is known as African Americans. So my question would be, in your humble opinion, okay, when it comes to the way that my community votes, should it be, and the reason I'm asking you is because we are from different nationalities, should it be we look at, okay, yes, it might not have changed for me, but somebody else is using it, so I'm going to jump on the bandwagon? Or should it be looked upon like, no, we have our own issues that we need to go through, so we're only a collective community when somebody else wants our help? So being a person who falls in line with things that have to be voted in, I wonder how you would look at the different constituents that put their votes out there.
That is a long question with a lot behind it.
I'm sorry.
It's all right. I'm like trying to process it because I can talk pretty openly and it's kind of weird. I mean, if we're going to talk about race, I'm actually mixed. I'm Black-white. So I do bring a perspective. I don't even know if you're supposed to say mixed anymore. I'm multiracial.
It's all good. It's all good.
I bring my own perspective and anger. I don't want to say it, but anger. I bring my own perspective and anger around certain things that have happened in our country. So for me, it's the war on drugs. The war on drugs is where I feel the most kind of anger. It's why what motivates me with criminal justice work. It's why I'm doing like counsel at first appearance, all these things around that, because I remember drugs, drug use, anything related to drugs. Terrible. Drop the hammer, lock them up, throw them away. Bad people. That's what I grew up with. And then I went to an Ivy League. I went to Yale. And imagine my surprise to realize that some of the most rampant drug use I've ever seen was with rich white kids.
Yep.
Who did it with no fear of repercussions and no judgment. It was like, it's all good. Mm-hmm. And so then to see the national conversation change around drug use when exactly what you said is happening, where it started affecting a different group of people. Now it's congressmen's children who are using drugs. It's, wait a minute, we might all be impacted. And the tone now changes to, it's time to rehabilitate.
Yeah, the opioid epidemic or against the war on drugs.
Yes, now it's all changed. And something about that bugs me. So that would be where it is for me. But I hear you on Flock that there's people, and I have to acknowledge, let me see if I'm getting this right, that like I mentioned ICE because ICE is what comes to mind right now. Mm-hmm. And I know, but you're right. You're like, wait a minute, there's been people who have felt surveilled or like a disproportionate police presence in their neighborhood, whatever it is, that now, wait a minute, we're supposed to get behind them, and it's because of ICE that we're worried about it. And what does that really mean? Yeah. And I'm going to throw another one, weird race thing, which I look like I'm Latina.
I thought you would.
Yeah.
Man, you know Katrina long enough. What are you talking about?
I thought Katrina was
biracial.
Don't worry. I actually had someone present, when I first got on the school board, I had someone present an award as the first Latina school board member. And I had to tell them, like, I am not, but thank you. I actually was the first African-American woman on the school board.
Talk your talk.
But the worst was when I was actually at an event in Richmond, because I do like to support our Latino caucus because there's not a lot of members. And by the way, they are just getting that community is getting so attacked right now.
Yeah.
So I do like to support them. And then this magazine lady came up and was like, we can put a feature on you in Latina magazine. I'm like, I I am not Latina. I cannot. But what does that mean? Because you're right though in that I can feel I am not of that race, but I can, or that culture, but I can actually feel some of the pain because like went back. You all remember the news story where they were saying they were looking for people's ID on the train? Yeah. I'm thinking, do I need to walk around with my passport? I actually have my passport in my jacket. Yeah. I'm like, I don't, And also I remember right after Trump won, actually the first time I had a good family friend who posted on Facebook back when Facebook was a thing. I still use Facebook. And said, oh, great. Now my commute is going to be so much better because we can get all of these Latinos off the road. And I'm thinking, are people looking at me in my car and thinking that I'm like clogging up their roads? So it's weird in that I get a little of both, if that kind of makes sense. But I hear you. I take the what I would say is that the Black people I know in my life, my father, my grandparents, we always have to take the high road. It sucks, but it's a place to take the high road because there's a community that very much needs our support, and their voice sometimes is even more right now in our current system. It's even more squashed down than you would ever expect, and they need people to advocate for them.
Yeah. It's something I want to give you kudos on as well. And correct me if I'm mistaken, but I'm trying to think of the exact title. So correct me, but like your office managers or like campaign director, whatever, like have been Latino. You had Jason and the gentleman you have now. What is his name again?
Angel is going to be starting with me, and I have Matthew. So I have 3 people. Jason is actually mixed as well. So
yeah. So
I'm really proud of my office diversity. I like seek it out. I think it's good perspective. I think it's all good. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. So we are talking to 54th District Delegate Katrina Carlson. You mentioned as well, kind of briefly, SNAP benefits and whatnot. What can you tell our listening audience right now as we come out of 25? We see we're going to have a Democratic governor and like majority leadership for Virginia. So what can you tell us where we're at now and maybe your hopes for 2026 as it relates to like family services, including SNAP benefits and what have you?
I can be really direct. The best thing that people need to do is they need to vote in 2026, and they need to make it so we have a different majority in the federal government. Okay. The state is not able to make up the deficit.
Okay.
We will probably prioritize SNAP over other issues that are going to be affected, like Medicaid. Virginia participates in Medicaid expansion, just because in the scheme of where you need to take care, you need to eat food. People need to eat food before they can do anything else. But the deficit, what I just said in an interview recently is it's not a situation of making lemonade out of lemons. We don't even have the lemons. There is not enough money that we have in the state budget to even fund what we need to cover the federal deficit. And so we will not be able to maintain services as they currently are for very much longer if the federal government doesn't step in. That being said, can I tell you a few things. One, pay attention. I just was driving my kid over to this debate yesterday for this weekend, my first ever debate competition. It was pretty interesting. And when I was driving there, I'm like, why is this line of cars here? What's going on? It was a line of cars for the food bank that's over on the Lambs Lane campus. So just, you don't realize what people are living through right now. But there's a line on a Saturday morning, early in the morning, there's a line of people waiting to get food from the food bank. And I'll tell you, as someone who grew up with my family on food stamps, what we used to call them food stamps, WIC, that's what my family relied on. I don't know. I will defend until my grave that providing services and food to those who need it is an investment that will always be worthwhile. It pays off in the long run. It helps people get the footing they need to move up and beyond. Which is another.
I got a question.
Okay. I mean, I'm ready to defend it.
Versus the ways that the federal government wastes money, other ways, I got to agree with you.
I got a little question. All right.
Before you go there, because you said 26 election, but potentially, I'm not saying y'all are going to do it, but potentially, does the state have like an emergency call for whatnot to decide, hey, well, like we can extend services a little bit, much as we can with some emergency funding?
So I don't have enough I don't have enough information. I don't want to get out wrong information. I'm actually going tomorrow to a finance retreat for 3 days where we're going to get the state projection on what the numbers look like. And they are trying to crunch the numbers to figure out what we can do. And I don't know right now.
Okay. I'm just asking a question. All right. Food, water, shelter are the basic necessities, right? That everybody is entitled to, in my opinion, right? You shouldn't have to worry about where you sleep. You shouldn't have to worry about if you're going to eat, your children going to eat. But my question would be, when you see people that make choices and decisions to where they put their wants out there in front of their ability to buy food, where is the not, and please nobody, as he's a Republican, we didn't see them say that about me before, but it's not that. It's just the fact of, it seems like people like to spend their money on what they want and beg for what they need. So if you're driving a nice vehicle and you have an iPhone and your children underage have iPhones, but you go to the food banks to get assistance, is there ever a point where it's okay to look at people and ask them, where are your priorities? Because a iPhone costs what, over $1,000 now? And if you got multiple iPhones, because there's other phones.
I know my phone's like on its last leg. It's always
Mine
cranking.
too.
I'm like, I don't want to have to buy another one. These things are expensive.
But that's what I see though. Like,
but can the government control that though? Like I got to interject with that. It's like the government. To me, the bottom line. I'm curious her answer, but to me, it's like, I'd rather help people that need help, even knowing that people are going to always abuse the system. Our president abuses the system. You can't stop people.
No. I'm just saying, regardless of who the person is, Republican, Democrat, white, black, young, old, whatever.
Yeah, but it's going to help somebody. Is my point.
But that's almost like, okay, you have people that decide to do crime that said, no, I'd rather spend my money on this than further my education. Right. And then we like to say, and I'm one of the people that had got in trouble before, but I'm old enough to now to start to look at everything was a choice, you know, regardless of what you're born into. You just said so yourself. Your family relied on SNAP benefits, WIC to get by. Right. But you made a choice. So when I see people, I even do it with the people that's in the corner that ask you for money. I look down at your feet. I look at your hands, you know, so, and I shouldn't, but I choose my judgment as to what I do or don't do from that point. So is there ever going to come a time where we look at anything with accountability to say, okay, could you get by with less on your personal life so that you were able to use that money to feed yourself? Is that okay? I'm just asking.
Again, I think you got a few things in there. So one, yes, it's fine to ask people where their priorities lie. And hopefully, like society writ large is checking people who aren't doing well by their kids, by their wives, by whoever. However, it's a numbers game for me. Literally, the fraud, the waste, the people who are not doing what they need to be doing. And by the way, if they're not doing what they need to be doing and they're buying iPhones and whatever, not taking their kids, like, then they're a bigger, you know, like, we're not going to fix that regardless. That's somebody whose mind's not in the right place.
Right.
What I do know is what I get out of the system is this living in a society where I want to live, which is I don't want to see starving kids or starving anyone on the side of the street, because I don't care where your mental state is or why you're making the decisions that you're making. I know that that's the small fraction. And the more politics is all about messaging. And I feel like Republicans focus on that small portion and they're distracting us from a bigger conversation, which is that, yeah, people abuse benefits. They do. They make terrible choices. Not gonna say that. We, what is the word? Uplift corporations and billionaires who abuse a system to the tune of billions of dollars while focusing on the few people taking advantage of some SNAP benefits. Like, if you want to live your life with using a WIC card to get all your food by choice, then okay, that's you.
On both of those choices though, Katrina, like if I decide to go and on Black Friday and spend all this money to help the corporations, that's my choice. If I decide that my car, my hair, my nails,
but I'm saying we
is
need
more important than my kids.
I'm saying, well,
that's your choice. Everybody else shouldn't have to pay for that.
We need to move the conversation. Just like I shouldn't have to pay for tax cuts for a guy who's got $1 million yacht. Just like I shouldn't have to pay government benefits for a woman working at McDonald's 60 hours a week who somehow can't make her rent. while the corporation is returning millions to their shareholder.
I agree
Like,
with that too.
the numbers are always, like, not always, let me not speak in absolutes like my politician coming out, but the numbers support that. Absolutely, there can be people who are taking advantage of the system, and it can be frustrating. But in the long run, that's not who I need to focus my anger and ire on. Because, by the way, we're not going to change it. That's like something that's happening. And I can speak even further about how people in low situations often might, to an objective observer, seem like, why are you doing what you're doing? But we're all humans. And if your life's in a really crappy place, I'm trying to remember I'm on the radio here. If your life's in a really crappy place, you might not be making decisions that to someone else, it's like, well, why do you have an iPhone? Well, because I don't know. They have so little going on. I don't know. That's getting distracted. The point is, we are so easily distracted by focusing on the few, the people who are doing the few bad things over here, that we are forgetting like the just accepted commonplace thing that is happening, which is bad, which is that, like I said, we have corporations where people are working full time. They are waking up. They are not lazy. They are waking up. They are showing up to work, and they're doing the work that, by the way, none of us really want to do. And they can't get by.
No, I got you. So, but my last thing I want to say is, everything comes down to a choice, right? So if you are in the situation where, like you said, things are bad and the iPhone makes me feel bad and these other things that I need help, right?
Yeah.
But you don't vote.
Then, okay.
If you don't vote to put people in play that don't allow certain things to happen on the big end, I don't think you should get services. You gave up your right.
I mean, that's one way to regulate it.
Yeah. If you don't vote, you shouldn't get.
I do think I understand your point, and I hear your point, Grace. I'm sliding on your and Charles's interview, Katrina. I hear your point, Razor, but I think the slippery slope that we're on when you start talking about that type of oversight is that the federal government's idea of intervening in a situation like that is to strip it all. Is to take it all. They're, not incremental. Let's see what piece it like. Take it all, and that just puts us all in a worse place, and especially those who actually need the assistance than where we currently are. I have a question. If we could circle back to your most recent, your campaign, Katrina, and your reelection. I'm interested in, as you were on the campaign trail and out talking to different constituents, what feedback you were getting from them in terms of what their current issues are, what they see as the current issue, and maybe how that feedback has influenced your priorities moving forward.
Yeah. So the way I do my legislation is I have a tracker of anyone who's brought me ideas. I try to prioritize local driven ideas and things that I've heard from folks. Right now it's got I think I was just pulling it up before this. It's got probably 56 things on it. I'm probably only going to be bringing 20 pieces of legislation. I will tell you, economics is the number one issue. Just by polling and by talking, economics is the number one issue. Healthcare is number two. People are worried about their healthcare premiums going up. Some of y'all might be seeing it. Actually, recently, I just heard this morning from a candidate herself who went to go update her insurance and found out it's now going to go from $99 to $211 a month. I mean, that matters when you're budgeting. Wow. And she's like a single, healthy, woman. Anywho. So healthcare. Specific bills locally, affordable housing. So so I try to just bucket my bills around things that I've talked about. So I have a bill that's going to be talking about regulating rentals, because a lot of people rent locally, and we don't have a lot of protections for renters if you are in a bad situation or if you are living in a rental where your landlord is not taking care of it, it is not livable. It actually is really hard to fight that. So I've got a bill around that. Got a bill around guns on college campuses, which is a lot of importance locally. It's actually a bill that's driven by UVA after the shooting that happened, which we just passed the memorial date for. It's brought by university police chiefs, actually, about ways that they can adequately investigate when someone is bringing guns on campuses. Right now, it's against the rules, but it's not illegal to bring a gun on college campus. And it makes it really hard for police to intervene, even when they know someone's breaking the rule, because it's not a law, it's not a crime, it's just a rule. I have a bill to speak to on the economic piece. That's where I'm trying to really understand where can I make some difference. I am exploring a bill that's around the cottage food industry, and it's just kind of a neat time for me because Beacon Kitchen I have not worked with, but I've visited. I believe in their mission. I just really believe in their mission and like supporting small entrepreneurship, small businesses, especially businesses by people of color. It's just important to me. So I got proposed this bill around how there's something in Virginia where, you know, it's harder to sell food items online in Virginia. There's a lot more regulation you have to go through. That isn't, by the way, necessary. There's other states that don't have those same restrictions. They don't have any worse health outcomes. None of that is occurring. So I feel like in Virginia, I would like to make it easier for those small businesses to thrive. So I'm trying to do that cottage food bill. The list goes on. I got a lot of ideas.
That's good stuff.
I also, just so people know how some of it works, you know, I go to, and Max, you know this, I go to the city of Charlottesville, I go to Albemarle County, I go to the 2 school boards, and I ask them what their priorities are. And I try to carry at least one priority from those 4 things.
Okay.
Got you. I heard you mention the university.
Yeah.
Give us an update on the Board of Visitors and sort of your feelings about that right now. Because again, if it's governor appointed, are we feeling hopeful that we can kind of right this ship in regards to the way that UVA has been politicized and been treated, and the way the federal government has been intervening with funding and things like that? Is there any updates in that regard?
I should have mentioned that one because that is absolutely top of mind for so many folks right now because it's so directly impacting us here in Charlottesville. Yes, I'm working on a big bill to restructure how we do the Board of Visitors to make it so that what's happening right now, these political, games, mess, whatever, can stop. It's going to have a lot of components. It's going to make it so that one sitting governor can't appoint the entire Board of Visitors. I told you before we started that this is where I'm going to struggle because there's so much work that I put into this. So let me just, streamline it down to what is happening right now is gross. In the past, governors would appoint people to oversee our universities based on their experience, on their connection, on the belief in what they wanted to do. The current governor, as popular as he actually is with Virginians, he has made it so that all of our Board of Visitors are almost all Republican. There's no partisan, being bipartisan. Right now in the University of Virginia, it's a 17-member board. 5 people have not been confirmed, but all 17, the 5 proposed and the 12 who are on there, they're all Republicans. They've donated over $5 million to Republican.
Who's paying him? Sorry.
Yes.
No, that's right.
Yes, and in a state that is purple, in a county and a city that are deep blue, it is not right to have a Board of Visitors that is 100% political Republican appointees.
Yeah.
And by the way, what that means is we have a president that was ousted. We have a deal with Trump's DOJ that none of us were told about. We have a search for a new president that we don't have any transparency on. We have lawsuits that are being levied at us. We've proactively agreed to Trump's interpretation of the Civil Rights Act. We haven't fought back on any of those things. We haven't joined lawsuits when we've lost funding. Other states California was able to get funding back for their schools because they fought it. We didn't join in any of that. Instead, we've appeased. We said, well, we'll just go with whatever you want. That means that we're cutting out all kinds of programming that was benefiting our student. We're just proactively giving it up based on what Trump wants, and it infuriates me. So yes, I am going to be doing work there. We are going to be changing that. The lawyer side of me says Youngkin set a precedent when he let go of one of his own board members that I can't speak for Governor-elect Spanberger, but there is a possibility you could go in and you can make these boards a lot more even-keeled, and you can prevent this from happening.
Yeah, that's big. A lot of people wonder why would we talk about UVA, but as even Razor has said, as UVA goes, so does the country, because Charlottesville and UVA is the foundation of the development of this country, in so many ways. So that's why it's so important.
We're a great university. All of this, it's like a gaslighting. It's like a lesson in gaslighting working with Washington, D.C. right now. We are a world-renowned public university. There was nothing that needed to be done to fix us. We got a guy who started Trump University, which was like a scam to get money out of people that then failed, telling us, Virginia, we stand on our, we stand on our business. Our schools are great. That he needs to come in and independently, look at all our schools. Professors need to get their courses evaluated by DC. That none of that makes sense. By the way, also it's Virginia taxpayer money that pays for our schools.
Yeah,
it's not DC.
Right.
And the fact that if you look at any of these statements, I'm sorry, I told you, because if you look at any of these statements from all these people that are saying, oh, no, it's all, we did what we needed to do to protect the university. Who are we protecting them from? You know, from the president? That's wild. That's not how it's supposed to work. That is supposed to make me feel good. Like, don't worry. I signed the agreement so that we don't get punished. And you should be happy. I did what's great. I prevented us from getting punished. Well, we're not supposed to get punished by the federal government.
Mm-hmm.
We're not supposed to get threatened by the federal government to do what they want.
Right.
And it's not a win to say, don't worry, I did what they wanted, so now they'll stop.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Spot on. So Katrina, Max, I'll let you. I have the final word, and but thanks for joining us, Delegate Carlson, for yet another term. It's definitely always a pleasure. And definitely want to let folks know too, if there's anything you need us to go to petition for, or
parting comments. That's my final word.
Oh yeah. Let me end with I'm actually here to serve you guys. I do offer. People don't realize the level of service that I can do. I can help with DMV. I can help with state agencies. I can help with UVA. I can help with all kinds of those connections. So please reach out to my office. I also craft legislation based on what people bring me. So I have office hours. It's hard, let me know about events. I love showing up to events, all of that stuff. Just please be engaged if you want to. I share an office with Cree Deeds. I'm on the downtown mall, and I would love to talk.
Great. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing your time with us this Sunday. Congratulations on your reelection, and we look forward to having you back.
Yeah. Thank you guys for having me.
Yep.
We live in a society in which structural racism is a very real thing. We are all dealing with that in every aspect of our lives, and the media is a reflection of our community.
Historically, black people have been portrayed a certain way in the media to justify normative assumptions around political and social issues.
More black people behind the cameras, in front of the cameras, more producers, more people of color producing, so they can go and get the content that's needed so they can highlight our attributes.
I've been in this industry for 15 years, and I've seen firsthand how our voices just aren't heard. Even if you're in the newsroom, sometimes you get completely ignored and stereotypes are allowed to perpetuate. And one thing we want to do is combat that, and also bring information to people so they can be as informed as possible when choices are made in this city, so they can do whatever they can to get their voices heard.
What I believe can be done about the situation is to have more people of color creating news stories, more people who have a interest in and a social consciousness that relates to the stories that they're telling.
Charlottesville Tomorrow looks at these issues. We can present them on IMHO. Vinegar Hill Magazine can take that a step further, and just together we can just make this thing that can be an example of how we can change the media landscape, how we can be more inclusive to get these voices in, to get these people heard. That's just one thing that doesn't happen in so many places, and it's a shame.
We think we live in a society that's very progressive, and we're talking about equity and diversity and inclusion and all these things. Still, the way that black people, and I would say, and I would argue especially black men, are portrayed by the media is incredibly dangerous, and you've seen the sort of tangible violence that it's led to over the past year.
The community can support the SIM project by first and foremost giving us an opportunity. We understand that it can be difficult to give trust right now, especially considering the current social and political environment. But this project will only be as successful as the community allows it to be. And so we ask you to give us the opportunity to do the work, critique the work, and make sure that we stay in line with the vision. Another way that the community can get behind the SIM project is through engagement. We want to hear from you. We want to know what you're talking about. We want to put your stories out there. And so whether it's reading the articles written by Charlottesville Tomorrow or Vinegar Hill Magazine, or tuning into In My Humble Opinion on Sundays on 101.3 Jams from noon to 3 p.m., either way, we want you engaged. We want you to be part of this. The community can also support the SIM project through funding. To learn more about how to support SIM, you can visit our website. Thank you for your support.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max, Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max, Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max, Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max, Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max, Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
HO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
HO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
HO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
HO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
HO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Miss Max Razor.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
You know what it is. I am HO Talk Show. Tell a friend, because we back like we never left.
That's right.
Miss Max, Sir Charles,
Miss Max,
yell it.
and Razor.
Just
And
yell
Razor.
it. Razor. Yeah, there we go. Hey, look, one more time for the people in the back. Right?
Out of place. Out of place.
Hey, but you could be anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate it. You know, we taking Seville to the world and bringing the world to Seville per usual. And what better way to do that but by having the man, the myth, the legend, Dr. Wes Bellamy, looking pretty relaxed today. The brother must have came here fresh from a prolific run or something.
No, we had a good hoop session this morning.
That's what's
so
up.
yeah, we got a Sunday tradition. Me and some of the guys and our little ones, we go to Waffle House after we play basketball. So y'all caught me fresh out of that, and I'm
That's
glad to
what's
be
up.
here, man.
Yeah, appreciate
Much
you
love.
being here.
Yes, indeed, bro. So Wes, you may or may not know, we're near 10-year anniversary of the show, and so
Goodness,
like
congratulations.
appreciate you, man. And like, and so thank you, like for that part of rocking with us from the get-go.
Yeah, damn, I feel old. 10 years.
Who you telling? But like, like as we've grown, you've grown, been different places, like, but you've always reached back and saw the value in our platform. So we thank you for that.
No doubt, no doubt. There's no me without y'all, so we appreciate it.
It's indeed, man. It's indeed. So there's so much that we could be talking about, right? Like we fresh off of a midterm election. I'm sure you have thoughts about that. We have a lot of craziness in our like polarized, political landscape right now. But the beauty I see, Wes, because you're a man of the community, is that how we're seeing the community groups come together per usual, and we're there for each other. On a quick announcement, you have another turkey drive coming up, which is a prime example of community sticking together. Like, so sort of, like pitch that event, but also give your take, like a word of encouragement to the people, as we're going through things where people are really, really struggling, and the importance of us, working together and taking care of our own.
Well, one, man, again, I really appreciate yourself, Charles, Max, Razor. We really, really appreciate you all supporting us and all we do, and also allowing us the opportunity to be able to come up here and talk about the things that are going on in the community. First and foremost, obviously giving honor to God. And I'm so excited that we are having our 13th annual turkey giveaway next Sunday. That'll be taking place next Sunday at 1 p.m. at Tonsler Park. Again, the 13th year. This year is going to be a little different. We are looking to have a few additional 100 turkeys. So usually we give away around 200, 250. This year we're going to have around 300 to 350. It just kind of goes to show the importance of community working together. We've already had around 350, 400 requests for turkeys. So I think that in some regard, there are a lot of people who need assistance. The government shut down, and although the doors are back open, there's still a lot of people who are feeling the impact of the doors being closed, as well as just the economy isn't where it needs to be. So there's a greater need. Every year, those who are familiar with the Turkey Drive, community groups come together to provide turkeys for the community, and we always have a line, 100 or so people before we start at 1 o'clock. And again, I've already, the phone has been ringing off the hook. People know the Sunday before Thanksgiving we're going to have turkeys at Tonsler. And I'm a little disappointed and sad that the need is so great, but I'm happy that we're able to come together to help plug and fill that hole. And then on a lighter note, on Saturday night, we'll have our 7th annual sneaker ball. That'll be taking place at the Vault, the Bradbury Vault on the downtown mall. So shout out to Black Professional Network and the Tonsler League and Dream and CNF Bank and everybody else who's helping us pull that off, and we're really looking forward to that. And then Sunday, after the turkey drive, we'll be talking with the Honorable Joy Reid, the former commentator from MSNBC. She's gracing our presence down here in the big city of Charlottesville. And she'll be here talking about talking with me about my new book, Nobody's Coming to Save Us, The Black Print for Leadership, which is kind of a culmination of all the things that we've been talking about. And it's important for us to do for ourselves. You asked about a word of encouragement. I think that we have to remind ourselves that there's nobody coming to save us, and we have to take care of each other and ensure that we can do what we can to make sure that our communities are well taken care of. So a long answer, but
no, that's spot on. That's spot on. So let's jump into it, man. So like nobody's coming to save us, because, and I think that's a good starting point, Max, is like just sort of talking about the book, because I have a feeling that this is going to branch out into a bunch of different subtopics, right? So so as you stated, it's titled Activists, a collective conversation that's going to be happening with yourself and Joy Reid at the Jefferson. And so about the book, nobody's coming to save us, right? The book tour. So my question is, who is us?
Black folk. Specifically, there's nobody coming to save Black folk. There's nobody coming on a horse who's gonna come with some silver suit, and that's gonna come and make sure that they have a magic wand and ensure that everything is okay within our communities. There's nobody who I feel personally that we can look to, and there's the Messiah complex sometimes within our community, and we think that there's one person or a group of particular people who are going to come and make sure that everything is okay. I think we have to commit ourselves to saving ourselves, and we are going to do so. So this book, in my personal opinion, is my favorite book that I've written. This is my third book, and it's the best one. by far. And it's a collection of stories of things in which I've learned along the way, but then also you hear several different voices, people from Pastor Jamal Bryant. Shout out to my brother Jeezy. He wrote the foreword, as well as he has a chapter in there talking about different things he's learned from leadership. HBCU presidents like President Abdullah at Virginia State University, President Artis at Benedict College, and several people. I don't want to give it all away, but you all to hear different. You all will hear a lot of different voices in the book talking about different things in which they've learned. And then also at the book tour, at the book stop next Sunday, we're going to have a community conversation from new leaders within our community, including Jessica Carter of Her Sports. You'll hear from Jamar Pierre-Lewis of Dream Clothing, or Elijah Waller from City of Promise, Miss Shanice Bradford from Ready Kids, and the conversation to be moderated by Miss Josiah Ruiz from also working Ready Kids and does a ton of stuff in the community, including Mahogany Books. So it's going to be really good, man. I'm really, really looking forward to the conversation. But again, I think it's important for us to highlight each other, for us to support each other, allow ourselves to have these platforms, to have these discussions, because again, we have to do for us. And I've been so proud of seeing the work that we're doing here in the community.
How do you think the theme of this book, this Black print, might differ from that of one people 50, 75 years your predecessor may have described the blueprint, Black print for leadership?
Yeah, I think there's a few different things now that we have to deal with that they may not have had. I don't know if you want to call it the gift or the curse of having to deal with, but within the book, you hear stories, also kind of some untold stories. Like there's one in there, some stories that I heard about Dr. King, some firsthand accounts from people who are working directly with him about some things in which he had to endure, lessons in there from Ella Baker and Fannie Lou Hamer and people of that nature. But then when you look at conversations today, I mean, in this era of social media, and there's a chapter in there talking about what do you do when the timeline attacks you. There's conversations about knowing your cousins and how we got to know our people and how we handle our people, love our people no matter what. So again, there's a multitude of different things that I think that in some regard we're dealing with that maybe leaders before didn't have to deal with, but we do know that in some ways the Black print is the same. So again, it's just a culmination of conversations and life lessons that I think we all need to learn, no matter what kind of leader you think you are. You could be in the front, you could be in the back, you could be on the side, you could be the researcher, you could be the speaker, you could be the convener. I think we're all leaders, and in the ways in which we lead is going to be up to you. So I hope this book helps those who are coming about.
Right. If nobody's coming to save us, why do we care so much about the elections? Why are we so excited, as a whole, generally speaking, about, say, Governor Spanberger winning the election? If we feel at this point, 2025, that the system is doing what it was designed to do, and we have to take ownership of ourselves. So how does that parallel and contrast with being an active, citizen, while we also recognize that nobody else is going to save us?
Yeah, I think we can't solely rely on these systems to save us, but it is a good thing when we have access to certain individuals. I've had the opportunity and the privilege to speak with Governor-elect Spanberger on several different occasions. I think there is something to us, again, having access to those positions and those offices. And I think that in that regard, we can utilize the tools that we have to make those systems be beneficial for us. We can be the beneficiaries of those systems as long as we can work them the way in which we know that they need to be worked. But again, the elections and the government process is just one aspect of what we need to do in terms of taking care of our community. Like, I'm so proud of the work, like when you see stuff that like Za Bryan and her sisters do with mutual aid, or again, like folks like Shanice and what she's been doing at Ready Kids. A lot of folks within our community, shout out to, again, Jamar and all the folks who do like the Back to School Bash and the upcoming toy drive. Like, those are things, in my personal opinion, that show we take care of us. And I think that we can scale those things up. But before you can be a tangible leader, or in my opinion, a substantive leader, we have to learn certain lessons. And you don't always learn those things, unfortunately, in a quote unquote one book. Like there's not often a manual that says, hey, this is what you need to expect when you go through this, or this is what to look for when this is coming about. And I'm hoping that this book can serve as a guide in some regard. I mean, there's a lot of talk about therapy, self-analyzation, and again, lessons that I think a multitude of leaders have learned along the way, and tools that they can provide to people to help them be able to be better leaders. Because again, ultimately, you got to be a leader of self first, and then you can go out and help each other. And nobody's going to do that for you. Nobody's going to be your own self leader. You have to be that leader. So we hope this book can help in that regard.
Another question. I'm curious, how do you kind of synthesize this theme of nobody coming to save us with the individuals, the leaders in the Black community who step forward because they believe they can save something or someone?
Well, I think there's a couple ways in which I would answer that. One, there's no one person who's responsible for saving our community. This has to be a multitude of us who work to do this work collectively. We can do individual work with different people, but there is no Messiah that's here. The only Messiah I know, he died like 2,000 years ago or something like that. So there is.
I get you, but
People
so I came to kind of the Charlottesville scene, if you will, around the same time that your work in the community was picking up steam, right? And I only imagine that at some point you believed that you could change this community.
For sure. Still think that.
So semantics. Save us.
But changing and saving
change the
us.
community.
I think changing and saving us are two different things. I think we all have to, like, if you're in leadership, you have to consider the role in which you play, and then be clearly defined in what your purpose is. And there's a chapter in the book about understanding and learning your purpose, understanding your calling. Now, this isn't a conference call, so not everybody's going to understand the calling that God has given to you. And then your purpose is your purpose. I think that you're serving a purpose in a particular season, in a particular way. Like on Sundays at Townsville Park, that's my church. That's my opportunity to have my congregation, and we have hundreds of people there together, and we're providing the community with a safe space to go and us having fun. Is that changing the community in some regard? I like to think so. There's violence intervention and prevention strategies that we're using while we're there. I think that's changing the community in some regard, but that's not solely saving us. So again, like, I think individuals can do things that help out. And along my journey, I've learned that you can't save, quote unquote, anyone or anything. You can help play your role, and God can give you the tools to play your role. But this isn't a singular person job. So again, we all have to learn the tools and develop our skill sets so that we can play our role in helping change and impact our community.
Cool.
I like that. So, and you know, this us piece here, get ready, Raise. I know if you were quite ready.
Stay ready.
But you know, this actually harkens back, Wes, to a couple of conversations that we had even earlier in the show and probably on previous shows of, you know, and specifically today we were talking about school system, right? With Zai. And
what up, Zai?
Right.
Congrats on your win.
Yes, indeed. And so we know that there are so many like social factors that play a part in a child's success in their schools, right? Because if there's issues, if you have issues at home, most likely that's going to be kind of clinging on to you in every space you go into, right? So there's like a sort of a, you know, like a community solution needs to be done. And so we talked about how the city schools, you know, like has this new community school project that they're trying to do and all that to address these things. Shout out to Price and City of Promise.
Price, that great project he's doing.
And so all those
Superintendent Gurley, what's up, bro?
My wife, Dr. Jones Lewis.
Dr. Jones Lewis.
If we naming people, you won't get me in trouble.
You should have said that one first. Hey, Sharika, we love you. Let me be clear.
But my main point that I was trying to make, what I want to ask you though, is that us, because we are generation after generation, right? We are thinking we're preparing our kids and we're pushing them into a society to where a lot of times they're not welcome with open arms.
For sure.
Right. So what do you think are the holes in the cracks in our armor as a community, as a us, right? Because we, you know, like we've had leaders, we've had movements, we've had these things, like we've had books to read, you know, quite frankly.
We've had progress.
Right. We definitely had progress. But ultimately, we still seem to be behind in so many ways when it comes to the wealth building and the taking the ownership.
I disagree with that.
But we still at a place like to where we are still like underachieving in so many ways because we are building these projects and we're still asking for things.
Society as a whole is behind. Like I don't know if you can regulate that solely to Black folk.
Yeah.
I mean, to answer the
I'm just
question
speaking of us
in general, like so we're going to be specific to us. I think there's a couple of factors that you have to take in place. One, you don't have 260 some odd years of slavery followed by another 100 years of Jim Crow and Black codes, then another 40 to 60 years of redlining, educational unattainment, which was systemic, and then ensuring that Black folk are treated differently based on the criminal justice system, were enforced differently based on the penal system, and then essentially locking us out of resources years and years and years, and then expect for us to just be like, okay, hey, over time we got it, we're going to be on the same playing field. What I would encourage us to do is not compare ourselves to anyone else. Black folk are the most resilient people on the planet. Absolutely. Black folk in America, Black folk in Charlottesville, we're the most resilient people on the planet. There's no other group specifically, like if we're just talking about Charlottesville, who had to deal with the things that Black folk have had to deal with. I mean, from the outlook and the overlay of Thomas Jefferson and Monticello, from the backdrop of him thinking that he owns University of Virginia and then instituting this, in some regard, inferior complex that we're supposed to be second-class citizens. Then you look at what transpired with Vinegar Hill and how that decimated the community. Then you look at the tangible examples of Black folk being left out in the educational system and over-criminalized in the penal system, and we've still been able to overcome and push through. I mean, you look at the work that Zayana's been able to do. You look at the work that Nakaya's been able to do. You look at the work that Tanisha's been able to do, like Tracy's been able to do, Charles has been able to do, Razor's been able to do, like, and the work that we're still doing, we're clearly showing that we're making strides. Now, is there room for improvement? Undoubtedly, but when I see, again, like a Black media imprint, like we're talking on right now, that you and Sarad and Almighty and others have built up. We didn't have that 15 years ago. When I look at the amount of Black folk who have been serving on the city council, shout out to Mayor Wade. Like, we've had, for the first time, 2 Black folk on city council. Then we did that twice. Me and Nakaya were the first time you ever had 2 Black folk. Then you had Miss Perrier and Wade and Juan Wade on there. Yeah, 2 different times in less than 5-6 years, 2 Black folks serving on the council. Then you look at the Black folk who are serving on the school board. You look at how we've been able to be bold speaking out about equity. You look at the amount of projects from public housing sites in which we've been able to develop over time. You look at the education gap, and you have a superintendent like Royal Gurley, and coming on the heels of Dr. Atkins. Like, there's progress, in my personal opinion, that's been made. So when I judge it based off of, again, I only base us based off of us. I don't base us based off of anyone else. I see progress, but I also see room for improvement. Right. So again, like, we have to look at this as a holistic picture. It's very easy. I'm not saying you, but I'm saying collectively, it's easy for us to point out what isn't working and what hasn't transpired. But it's much more challenging for us to look at how we've been able to create change over time and give ourselves the benefit of the doubt. And honestly, I firmly believe that it's white supremacy that makes us look innately to the negative opposed to the positive, and not recognize or appreciate the strides that we've made. If you were to drop yourself in Charlottesville 15 years ago and see Charlottesville now, it looks like a completely different place. And much of that is due to the work that Black folks specifically have been able to do here in this community. And I'm looking forward to 15 years from now, how much even better our community looks because of the work in which we're going to be able to do.
Totally agree with you.
Yeah.
But to get to the nucleus though of what I was saying, I would say, to your point of it's a tool of white supremacy that will make us look at the negatives.
Yeah.
I would say it's also a tool to make us look at the positives and to look at incremental growth, right? Because they know that still, when it comes to ownership, at some point we're still going to be asking, we're still going to be begging for things. So the point that I'm making is just that, like, you know, we're dealing with the system as we mentioned.
Well, who we begging? Who's begging? And who we begging?
I'm talking about as far as like the ownership, right? Like the ownership of our communities, of our own businesses, to where you don't even have to worry about whether a location of the downtown mall is going to accept you or not, because you know where you are welcome.
All right, so let's address that real quick. Hold on, the business part.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's break that down. If we're talking about quote unquote begging, Black folk don't have to beg. When I was in office and Nakai was in office, we created something called the Business Equity Fund. It's still in existence. It's run through CIC, the Charlottesville Economic Development Office of Charlottesville Economic Development. And if you're opening up a business, you Black, you can get access to a $30,000 loan at a 1% interest rate. We put the system in place in which you ain't got to necessarily go big. That's us using the tools, and that's using the systems for us to provide our persons and our people with the tools to be able to advance. If we're talking about home ownership, we have I'm not going to go into all of like what PHA, CRHA, the city and the county is doing or whatnot.
Yeah, we talk about that.
But yeah, so we put tools in place for us to be able to try to level the playing field. But again, if we're comparing it, I think it's important for us to compare apples to apples, not apples to grapes. If there's a group of people who've had a 200-year head start or even a 50-year head start, us comparing where we are now into where they are, I don't think that's equitable. I think we have to focus on our progress and then what we collectively do. Again, this is just my opinion. This don't make it right. But I think that we have to focus on collectively what we can do to improve our communities and also take into account some of the outside factors. One, substance abuse. Secondly, again, overcriminalization. Thirdly, when you look at a lack of education in many regards, we're trying to correct things that have been directly impacted into our communities. And you don't correct those things overnight because they weren't created overnight. So it's going to take time, but I'm very proud of the rapid pace, in my opinion, that we've been going to grow our communities to get to where we need to be. So I don't view us necessarily as being able or having to go out and beg anybody. We just got to be able to find the resources and then deploy them to our communities, which I think we've been doing at a much more rapid rate than has happened in decades before.
Gotcha.
Hey, let me jump in here real quick.
What's up, bro?
We're hearing I didn't realize how much of a same cloth that we were cut from, because I'm listening to the interview, but I'm also hearing what I saw when it came to my uncles. You're speaking on Black folks. I'm hearing you say, I need my Black men to step up more. I'm definitely, no. I don't even want you to comment on it because they'll attack you and they won't attack me. But I just realized that with all the accolades that you're giving to our community as a whole, right? This is a man talking that's asking other men to, we're both Christians, but it sounds like we can respect the Muslim nation, how they group together and the men do stuff to lead their community. So when I'm listening to you talk, in that I'm hearing differently than the conversation is going. I hear you talking Black man to Black man in code. No, don't do that. Now him.
Well, I was gonna let him finish, but
I
answer. But was there a question?
No, it's more of an acknowledgement, right?
Yeah,
I'm hearing two different things. Like when I see white men talk, they talk in general, but they're talking in a way that they understand. And what you're talking about with the growth and economic advancement of our people, yes, you're saying Black folk, but you're also asking Black men to step up to a position that they want to be without saying the words. I only understand it because it's innately in me as well to hear what you're saying. So that's why I asked you, don't acknowledge it, because you will come under attack on something that the mission. No. But this is the thing. I mean, women are get used to getting beat on by their husband and calling it love too. So what I'm saying is, we don't do a good job of insulating what can take us to the next level. Now, I can openly say I never always felt that way about you, because you and I would bump heads because it was two strong people. But I supported everything you did, even though I might not be standing right beside you. Now I'm hearing the conversation at 51 a little differently. Like, okay, I see where he's referencing that everybody can't hear it, but like you said before, everything ain't for everybody. So I appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate the way that you've learned to explain yourself instead of being a bull in a china shop. But I also understand that you can't do this work by yourself, and it takes Black men to stand next to Black men.
Well, so
in my opinion,
one, I'm glad that you received it that way. To Max's question, no, I wasn't saying that exactly per se, but I'm glad that for you, Razor, that you received it in that regard. Undoubtedly, I believe that brothers got to continue to do more. And there's a multitude of brothers who are doing phenomenal work. Shout out to my man Littles, James Dow, and his dad and his brother, like all three of them business owners in many different regards. My man Will Jones, I'm just leaving the barbershop. You know, like there's a lot of brothers, Sean Pendleton and Sarad, obviously the OG, Quentin Papers. Like there's a lot of brothers. Our city manager is black. Our superintendent is a black man. Our city manager is a black man. Like I think that there are brothers who are doing a lot of different work. In the book, yeah, you hear me talk a great deal talking about black folk in general stepping up in different ways. And yeah, brothers, there are specific calls to brothers. In the book, you hear me like talking specifically saying like for brothers, I highly encourage you to have a black woman beside you. They're going to make sure they got your back. The T's are crossed, the I's are dotted. There's a list of people who I talk about, like who I firmly believe make up my team and have helped me be able to go and grow in different ways as well. So yeah, brothers, we have to step up. However, I think those of us who quote unquote know, we have to do a better job of being able to encourage and empower our brothers to quote unquote take their rightful place, if you will, to use a biblical reference or to use a more communal sense. I think it's important for us to support the sisters, and there's times in which we're going to stand beside the sisters, times in which we'll stand behind the sisters, and then there's times that we need to stand in front of the sisters to make sure that they're protected. But brothers, we got to be able to stand.
Right.
Like more than anything, brothers, we have to be able and be willing to stand. And being able to stand doesn't mean us playing 2K all day. Yeah. It don't mean us just, BSing around all day like that. And I like to have fun. I'm just leaving the basketball gym. I get it. But there are things in which we can do. But again, I think that it requires those of us who know to be engaged in a way with our community to empower them to be able to, again, take different steps within our community. I don't think that collectively we always do a good enough job of being as welcoming as we can be. I think that there are often times there are some brothers who like they feel comfortable talking to some of us, but then they don't feel comfortable talking to all of us. And I think we have to collectively figure out and continue to figure out how we can be.
That's the woman raised men, in my humble opinion. No, I don't want you. I'm just saying. I'm not knocking any.
No, me either. I want to respond to that. I think there's man-raised men too who don't know how to communicate and talk to other brothers. I think that
I ain't never seen it.
Well, shoot. I mean, okay, so
no, I'm just saying I haven't. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I think the ones that you're talking about have found themselves, as Alexander says, go along to get along. With our sisters are so powerful now that it's easier for them to fall in line, and they can't take their rightful place if they're the
powerful. I think brothers,
the men. And I'm not talking about the sisters. Sisters are doing what they're supposed to do to hold us together. But there is a group of men that have been raised to take the subordinate role from a child, and now when they grow up, their job is to, like you said, hold up and uplift, and they have perverted it, like. Holding up and lifting up does not mean that you do not lead, and they do not know how to lead. They're used to being told what to do. So for the path of least resistance, that's just what I see.
So then who teaches them to lead?
That's what I'm saying.
So I'm asking you,
the men who are that really take their place, even if they're getting it wrong, are trying to lead, right? So that doesn't mean you're gonna get it right, because if you didn't have nobody teach you correctly, you might get it wrong, even though you're trying to drive the bus.
Okay, I got you.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. So then that takes me to another question, and it's one I just asked. Who do you think teaches our brothers right now how to lead?
That's a small number, and I'm looking. That's what I'm saying. So that's why I admire what you're doing in the way you're right. I know I'm doing. You ain't got to give me my. I'm gonna tell you.
It needs to be each other. It needs to be each other.
Yeah, no, this is the thing though.
We're saying similar. Like we collectively, I feel like we're three different leaders in this room. Who may have different leadership styles. But I think it's important for us to again continue to do. And in the ways in which that
we knock each other though. Like if you don't do it a way that not us, but I'm saying as a collective, as black men, we knock each other.
That's human nature though. That's literally.
I don't know that it is.
No,
man.
I see that within Hispanic communities, Asian communities.
No. You always talk about black people, so let's talk about black folk.
So we're talking specifically to black folk. Like again, it's human nature in many regard. If we aren't at a mature space or a space in which we can understand the value of what each other's doing, to criticize. That
I call that excuses.
So it can be. I call it like just based off what I've seen. People will criticize you when they may not understand something, or when they may be intimidated by something, when
Very
they may
true.
be jealous of something, or they may have fair criticisms. Multiple things can be true. What I hope that we can do,
That's
and
true.
what we talk
That's
about
true.
in the book, is that our job is to value each other. And if I can value you, then I won't do harm towards you. And if I don't do harm towards you, then collectively we can work to figure out how we move our communities forward. But more
Well
than
put.
anything, I want to respect and value you as a Black man. I want to respect and value you as a Black woman. I want to respect and value you so that, again, I don't do any harm towards you, so our communities can be most empowered and move forward. And that takes time.
Well put. Well put.
It takes time.
Yeah, that's the best answer to my question, by the way, bro. Like without you even knowing it, and I thank Razor for bringing that home. Like that really is, because that's my thing. While we are living in this society, we have to take our part in the system, right?
Yeah.
In the structure, we have to vote, all that kind of things. But at the same time, I personally feel like it's not designed for us, but it's doing what it was designed to do.
That's a fact.
And I feel
nobody can deny that.
Right.
Well,
yeah. So
I can't say no.
I feel you. Like, so I just feel like, and so in my mind, we just have, that's the corner we got to turn. Not saying that there isn't a lasting impact of,
you think we value each other,
of slavery and all that stuff, but we have to do those things that you just yourself mentioned, though.
Yeah.
Like in general, we do.
Yeah.
But the reason that we're not, in my opinion, where we need to be, again, like when it comes to our independence and not relying on a system that has proven it doesn't include us.
Yeah.
We don't value each other enough, because if we did, I feel like that because we have the buying power.
Yeah.
We have what we need, but we got to overcome those mental stigmas that colonialism and white supremacy has done to us.
I wholeheartedly agree.
If I could add to that, I
No,
agree.
sister, this is strong Black men only.
It's one of those things where sisters also know when to step back and let guys talk about a certain topic. So I was letting y'all have that. But I just wanted to add to what Charles was saying, is that yes, we don't value each other enough, not to the degree that we should, but some of that is due to the fact that we don't value ourselves enough.
Yeah. For sure.
And so
that's where it starts.
For sure.
Right.
For sure.
Yeah.
I agree with that. We're learning. And I think that we have to have a level of patience and grace with each other. Like we got to have a level of empathy and understanding with each other.
But it starts with self-love.
I agree. So if I value myself and I love myself enough, then I can be patient with you and understanding with you. And again, when I can understand the many things that are transpiring as to why you may be acting the way in which you act, your traumas, my traumas, and so forth, then we can have a better understanding. But I agree. I'm really glad to hear y'all say that y'all didn't think that we don't value each other. You all added the word enough, which I agree with. We don't value each other enough, but that doesn't mean that we can't get there. And the more in which we work together and continue to fight with each other, fight for each other rather, not just fight with each other, we'll get to where we need to be. And that's what we're kind of hoping you get from the book.
There you go. So Charlottesville Alumni Chapter Delta Sigma Theta Incorporated.
The Delta, shout out to the Deltas, boy. They was gonna kill me if we ain't have that Adam right. You know what I mean? Shout out to the Deltas. We love our lovely ladies in red.
Yeah, so activists, a collective conversation on leadership, purpose, and action. Nobody's Coming to Save Us book tour, November 23rd, 3 to 5 p.m. At the Jefferson School African American Heritage Center, featuring none other than Joy Reid, the former MSNBC commentator, and Dr. Wes Bellamy, the author of said book. Also in partnership with BP and Seville, in my humble opinion. Can I talk to you, Seville, Vinegar Hill, and the Jefferson School African American Heritage Center.
Right?
Yep. We're gonna be streaming that thing. I didn't want to tell them that. I want them to show up. But yeah. But so and so the book, where is the book available?
Yeah, the book is available on Amazon. The book is only $9.99. Also available on Barnes and Nobles, basically wherever you can get books. And it was important for us to keep the price of the book low. Again, it's only $9.99, less than a cup of coffee at Starbucks. This isn't about making a bag. It's really about ensuring that our people get the tools and get the knowledge. So we're really, really excited. This is a 7-city tour. We'll be in LA tomorrow. We have Charleston, South Carolina on Wednesday, Richmond on Thursday, Charlottesville next Sunday, and Atlanta, Charlotte, Tampa, Florida. There's a few different places, but again, we're really, really, really excited to be here in Charlottesville. There's no place like home, and we're hoping everybody comes out. Get your tickets today. It's free to come. next Sunday. But there's only 250 tickets, and I think they're already at like 175. So go online, Eventbrite, get your tickets now. Also, come out to the Sneaker Ball next Saturday. 100% of those proceeds will be used for the turkey giveaway, as well as our annual scholarship. And we're really proud of that too. We've been able to give away 5 scholarships every summer for the last 3 years at the Tonsor League. And our scholars are in school right now, so we're looking to raise money again for the turkey giveaway as well as the scholarships. And we're really excited about the work we're doing, that we collectively are doing, because we got us. Nobody else got to have us.
That's
we
it.
got us.
There you go. There you go.
All
Miss
right,
Max,
family.
Razor, Kanisha. You good,
Until
Nina?
next time.
All right.
Until next time, thank y'all for having me, man. Appreciate
We live in a society in which structural racism is a very real thing. We are all dealing with that in every aspect of our lives, and the media is a reflection of our community.
Historically, black people have been portrayed a certain way in the media to justify normative assumptions around political and social issues.
More black people behind the cameras, in front of the cameras, more producers, more people of color producing, so they can go and get the content that's needed so they can highlight our attributes.
I've been in this industry for 15 years, and I've seen firsthand how our voices just aren't heard. Even if you're in the newsroom, sometimes you get completely ignored and stereotypes are allowed to perpetuate. And one thing we want to do is combat that, and also bring information to people so they can be as informed as possible when choices are made in the city, so they can do whatever they can to get their voices heard.
What I believe can be done about the situation is to have more people of color creating news stories, more people who have a interest in and a social consciousness that relates to the stories that they're telling.
Charlottesville Tomorrow looks at these issues. We can present them on IMHO. Vinegar Hill Magazine can take that a step further, and just together we can just make this thing that can be an example of how we can change the media landscape, how we can be more inclusive to get these voices in, to get these people heard. That's just one thing that doesn't happen in so many places, and it's a shame.
We think we live in a society that's very progressive, and we're talking about equity and diversity and inclusion and all these things. Still, the way that black people, and I would say, and I would argue especially black men, are portrayed by the media is incredibly dangerous, and you've seen the sort of tangible violence that it's led to over the past year.
The community can support the SIM project by first and foremost giving us an opportunity. We understand that it can be difficult to give trust right now, especially considering the current social and political environment. But this project will only be as successful as the community allows it to be. And so we ask you to give us the opportunity to do the work, critique the work, and make sure that we stay in line with the vision. Another way that the community can get behind the SIM project is through engagement. We want to hear from you. We want to know what you're talking about. We want to put your stories out there. And so whether it's reading the articles written by Charlottesville Tomorrow or Vinegar Hill Magazine, or tuning in to In My Humble Opinion on Sundays on 101.3 Jams from noon to 3 p.m., either way, we want you engaged. We want you to be part of this. The community can also support the SIM project through funding. To learn more about how to support SIM, you can visit our website. Thank you for your support.